2021. It's 5 p.m. We're starting early. We have a long session ahead of us. We are in Memorial Hall, 308 Main. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Act of 21, this meeting will be conducted in person via remote means. Assistance in accordance with the applicable law. This means that the members of the public body, as well as the members of the public, may access this meeting in person or via virtual means. In-person attendance will be at the meeting location that I just mentioned, and it is possible that any or all members of the public body may attend remotely with an in-person on-demand video broadcast on cable television on channel 191 and dial into the meeting at 774-304-1455. Enter 1428# for the meeting number and 12345 for the access code. Specific information and the guidelines for remote participation can be found on the town's website. When required by law and allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by in-person attendance or by accessing the meeting remotely as above. All right. First of all, a quorum check. We have a complete attendance. We have Eric online, and we have 4 in the meeting room. Executive session pursuant to GL. We're going to go into an executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Executive session pursuant to GLC 30A, Section 21A 3, to discuss the strategy with respect to litigation, RMV Management Services, LLC, and Sturbridge Conservation Commission. Worcester Superior Court docket 2185 CV 00756 involving the property located at 30 River Road. If an open meeting may have been a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body, and the chair so decides that having a discussion in the open session would have a detrimental effect on the town's litigation. Okay? That said, all in favor of going into?
Eric Gaspar, in favor.
Eric? You're,
In favor.
okay. We have 5 in favor.
.605. Oh. Yeah, Annie, do you want to? Oh, sure. Okay. Okay, so this is, well, she's getting ready there. So this is number 17 on the agenda. This is for 3 New Boston Road and 529 Main Street. This is a Sturbridge Wetland Bylaw Letter Permit. Applicant is Sturbridge Recreation. We have Annie Rossioli here, the Director of Recreation. The request is to issue a letter permit. What they're asking is for a pesticide use at both of the properties in order to control ticks and mosquitoes. There's been a lot of complaints about ticks on the property from families that have been either in town or visiting for use of the properties for recreational purposes. and it's becoming an issue down there. And what they're looking at, the committee has requested looking at some different alternative options to use down there. So they found a product that they'd have presented for use. With that, we've included the product data sheets for you. They're mostly kind of natural alternatives. What they're stating is that a backpack fogger is used to disperse the product into the wood line, and then they spray backwards into the fields. It states that treatments are stated to be needed, typically applied April through October, as mosquitoes and ticks start to breed as temperatures reach 55 degrees. They also state that the fall treatment for ticks is extremely important in order to stunt reproduction for the ongoing year. It states that the product is applied to be applied every 30 days. One of the things, it's not proposed to be sprayed over any of the water bodies that are down there, just within that tree line and back into the field. So they're looking for approval to try these methods down there in order to help kind of control the tick and mosquito populations at this time. So, my recommendation would be that, we do have provisions that would allow for the use when there is a safety concern. There's a safety concern, then you can allow for that. And then also to look at some options for the properties, some management options moving forward that would help kind of keep ticks from entering into the field area. What options? Cutting back vegetation. I think a lot of the vegetation is kind of overgrowing the fence areas and the areas that are down. Different things that can be done to help kind of keep them from going, migrating onto the fields, et cetera. So maybe it's a good option to look at that moving forward.
Are you suggesting a more consistent mowing process?
Well, mowing, cutting back vegetation along the tree line, maintenance, there's other things that can be done too, like, spreading wood chips along the perimeter will help them from migrating into the area, some other options.
Chickens.
That too. Free fertilizer, right? So I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Annie, or?
I think you did a great job of covering it. That has been one of the #1 complaints consistently since I came into the rec department. But this year has been outstanding. We've even had some players or parents from other towns call to let us know how miserable their night was. But that has been very consistent since, at least 2017. I'm not sure if Lynn had all the same complaints prior, but I would imagine. But now it is getting to be out of control.
Well, we know that you'll get Eric's vote because he's the master of collecting ticks after one site visit.
Oh, good Lord. There's only a dozen.
Yeah, I wasn't far behind Eric by the end of the day.
So is this, is it at any particular time going to be in a fog where the kids would be there breathing this stuff? Is it going to be applied purely on the ground, or is it going to be a fog sort of thing?
It is fogged, and then we're given notice in advance on the days of treatment.
Okay.
Right, I'm sure they have to post to make people aware that it's been treated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
What is in the pesticide?
Bit of everything, right?
Did we get that?
Let me pull this up before I give you any
Oh, I didn't see it.
more information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did I miss that? Well,
It was in the,
I'm not trying to bog it down. Are you?
I read the OneDrive. Evidently not very well. Maybe I shouldn't have
I
admitted.
have the safety data, and then I also have the actual product.
Yeah, so the Ecovia MT active ingredients include soybean oil, clove oil, citronella oil, 2-phenolate propionate, lemongrass oil, and then there's some inert ingredients too.
That's all good stuff. That would taste good. No, I wouldn't have any problem with that.
You need Donna.
Well, Mr. Chairman, hearing no comments, I'd like to move that we approve it as indicated by the agent.
All right, do I have a second on
I'll
that?
second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
And one abstention. Good. All right. You're all set.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Annie.
Thanks for coming in.
Well, that was a tough one, wasn't it?
The leagues will be very happy with my follow-up email now.
Great.
Thank you.
53 Karen Road? All right.
Okay. All right, come on up.
Are we starting the public hearings?
Yeah, we're just starting the
Yeah.
public hearings. We're at 53 Karen Road, continued NOI.
Let me read this.
Let Steve read that.
Okay, go ahead.
I got yelled at for not doing it. Okay. In the interest of saving time, the Sturbridge Conservation Commission will hold all public hearings tonight for work within a wetland, a water body, or resource area, and/or within the 200-foot buffer zone to a wetland, water body, or resource area, in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL, Chapter 131, Section 40, and associated regulations, and the Town of Sturbridge Wetland bylaws and associated regulations. We will not be reading the newspaper ad. Prior to the opening of the first hearing for each project, the applicant is to submit proof of notification to abutters within the 200 feet of the subject property line and proof of legal newspaper advertisement. If these items are not submitted, the public hearing will not open. Additionally, prior to the start of each public hearing, we will announce the location of the project, the applicant, and the applicant's representative. If any of the visitors have not legibly signed in yet, please do so. Also, if any visitors are recording this meeting, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Golden Spike.
All right, Becky, you want to go?
Did you already read the,
Yep, I did. Well,
Oh.
yeah, 53 Karen Road, notice,
oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
All right, yeah, I'll just give a quick summary and then let you add anything in.
Absolutely.
So this was a continuation from last year. This was a project that was an oil spill at a residential property on Karen Road. We did issue emergency authorizations for them to remediate that. They're still have a DEP release tracking number and are still doing some air monitoring. We've recently received the fourth immediate response action status report, I just want to say that correctly, where the groundwater testing has come back positive, and it doesn't appear that they have to do any additional remediation work. The site's been fully stabilized after the initial remediation activities, so it doesn't appear that there's anything else they need to do within the buffer zone, bank, or anything of that nature. Also, with that, I was just going to add, what was I going to add in there? Oh, the only thing is that I think the wells will have to come out, the monitoring wells will have to come out afterwards. So at this time, we had continued it last year to see how that groundwater monitoring was going to come back, to see if they had to do anything else. So this would be an after-the-fact issuance of the orders of conditions that we required after we did the emergency authorization. So with that, I mean, I would recommend, since that doesn't appear there's any more additional work they have to do, vote to close the hearing and approve the project for the after-the-fact approval with the following conditions. I would just add that additional DEP monitoring report shall be submitted to the Conservation Commission at the same time as DEP. Groundwater monitoring wells shall be removed when appropriate, and a plan shall be developed and provided to the SEC to include protective measures to protect the wetlands during work. The conservation agent can review and approve that and provide comment to be incorporated if required, if you'd like me to do that. And it's just that they would provide that plan 2 weeks in advance of anticipated activity so we can look at it and provide that comment. And then any additional remediation work would require additional review and approval. It's not anticipated, but just to have that in there. So that would be my recommendation. Rob, sorry, is there anything else you want to add? And I can,
No, I think that's
Give me that.
a great, great summary. So right now, we're
really just in the monitoring phase of the project. There's really, as you said, Becky, no anticipated additional remediation work. So, yeah.
Have the monitoring results been good?
Yeah, there's been significant improvement in the groundwater and air quality, so.
And we visited that site, what, a year and a half ago, something like that?
A little over a year ago, when they filed the notice of intent. I had been on site quite a few times during the cleanup process.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think the initial release was in July of last year. It's been a while. I'm sorry, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 Julys
Yep.
ago.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Any comments? David?
None.
None? Stephen?
Yep, I'm good.
None
No, I'm
here?
good with this.
I'm good with it. Do I have a motion to,
Going to ask Eric, what, do we
yeah,
care?
Okay, public comment.
Eric?
We
I'm
keep
good.
lips.
Yep.
I muted myself, sorry.
No problem. Becky, you want to see if we have any, Aaron, you want to see if we have?
Oh, yeah. Is there anyone on the public line that would like to comment on 53 Karen Road, a continued notice of intent? Oh, I think I'm just hearing that from Bruce's. Again, is there anyone on the public line that would like to comment on the notice of intent for 53 Karen Road? I think I'm hearing myself in there, yeah. Anyone in the audience? No? Okay.
Hearing none?
I move we have a
Close,
motion
we
on
need to
this?
close the,
Close the public hearing.
Okay, I move we close the public hearing.
Have a second?
I'll second.
David?
Um,
Comment?
yeah. Do we want to close the public hearing since he's going to come back and give us other reports?
Well, they've met the requirements for the groundwater monitoring, but they still have their file open with DEP.
Right.
I just added that in so that way we can stay in the loop with the reporting. I don't think that we're gonna see anything different.
So you're
requiring-
suggesting that we will get the reports, the DEP reports also, so there's no need for him to come back in?
Right, it's not anticipated that
Okay.
there's any more remediation that needs to be
I have no
done.
other questions then.
Okay. All right,
I guess we need a vote. It's been seconded.
all in favor? All right,
Eric Gaspar in favor.
all right, motion to approve then.
I make a motion that we approve of 53 Karen Road for the remediation of file number 300-1064 with conditions as indicated by the agent.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Steve? Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Eric, right?
All right, well, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Nice to finally meet you.
I know, great to see everyone in person.
Yes.
Well, almost
Yeah.
everyone in person.
Thanks for coming in.
Take care.
Have a great night, everyone.
Thanks, you too.
All right, we're at 45 Bennett's Road, notice of intent, septic repair, septic system repair and installation of a well, DEP file number 300-1105. All right. Becky?
Whichever makes you more comfortable, you can sit or stand.
I haven't been in this room in a long time. Right? Yeah. I
Yeah.
went across the street.
Oh,
Where's the site plan? How you doing?
Good, how you doing?
I'm good. Good to see you. So I'm just gonna pull up the site plan for Eric and anyone else on. And Eric, is that okay as is, or would you like me to zoom in here?
No, this is fine.
Okay.
I can zoom in.
Okay. I'll just give a quick summary. Huh?
Who's that speaking back there?
Oh, it's Eric, our other board member.
he's really back there, he's in Texas.
This is high tech, look at this, all monitors, I hear people have 2 monitors, but you guys got 2, 3, 4. Steve's got another one over there, 5. Becky's got 2.
Yeah, but there's 5 of us sitting at this desk that have no clue about all of this technology.
All right, so this is a notice of intent. What we're looking at here is a septic system repair and installation of a new well for an existing house on Lead Mine Pond. They propose to install a tight tank to replace the existing septic tank. DEP's issued a file number. We have no comments from them. It does appear that the project will require variances from Board of Health for the well and the septic tank. As you can see from the site plan, we've got our 50-foot buffer and 100-foot buffer shown on here. The work is located outside of the 50-foot buffer, and the well is actually just outside the 100-foot buffer as shown on the plan. Work won't occur any closer to resource areas than existing developed areas. The upgraded septic system tank would appear to be an improvement over the existing conditions. Members of the board weren't able to make the site visit, but I did go out there. I did provide some photos for you to look at. I can pull them up if you want me to. It is all an existing kind of developed yard. Okay. All right, so I'll let Mark add anything he wants in there, but just overall, I would say that I wouldn't see any issues with it. There are variances that are required from Board of Health. I don't, if you want to move forward with the project tonight and vote on this, I think you can. If there are any changes, you'll have to come back for an amendment. If work is closer to resource area, then, as DEP says, you might have to file a new notice of intent. That would be up to you if you want them to move forward or wait for the variances. I don't see, it's not like a raise and rebuild associated with the septic or anything like that. I wouldn't anticipate any major changes, but that would be up to them. You can move forward and vote on it if you like. If you do, I recommend just adding our standard orders of conditions in there, and just the removal of the well spoils and restoration and stabilization of disturbed areas.
Okay,
Would you like to add anything?
all right. Mr. Barnacle?
Becky, can you use your pointer and point out the 100-foot buffer? Because I thought at the last public hearing, I had asked if it was possible, Mark, to move it out of the 100, because it was only in the 100 a tiny bit.
Not this project.
Not this project, okay. Then
Yeah.
don't bother with your cursor.
Yeah. This is the first time we're seeing this one. We have another one that's
Title
similar.
5 is 50 feet from a wetland resource, so the variances we need are close proximity to the property line and close proximity to the existing house. We're supposed to be 10 feet with the tank. We're less than 10 feet. And what we're trying to do there is, Title 5 also wants it to be 50 feet from the wells. We're trying to push it as far from the well as possible, and that's why we're encroaching a little bit towards the house. If we move it further away, it would be closer to the well, which we try not to do. We try to keep those separated as best we can. We also tried to locate the tank where I think he's most likely to be able to dig a hole successfully out there, because it's an area that has high ledge.
Right.
So, but in that corner where he has a full foundation back in there, so it kind of is proximity where he's already dug a hole, it'll get the house in.
Wow.
Mark, any trees coming down?
No trees are coming down.
Okay, thanks.
They might have some pruning to put the well mast up there, but
Right, that's what I wonder. Okay.
Was there a leach field here?
to the side of the house, there's a tank which would get pumped.
Previously, was there a leach field?
Yeah, there is, and there's a little tiny leach field that comes off of it. So it's a typical old system you'd see on the camp, a small tank and just probably a 30-foot trench that heads towards the lake. So we'll abandon the trench in place and then
Okay.
pump the tank and fill that with sand so it doesn't collapse and
Right.
become, a hazard to somebody.
Right. So, now, I retired from Department of Environmental Protection in 2009, and at that time, you could not have a tight tank as your final solution. So, that was a long time ago, I'm assuming, and that's maybe why I didn't look at that very hard.
They changed the rules. Two things. One is you could have a holding tank, but you'd have to demonstrate there was no feasible alternative to put something in there. But then recently, probably in 94 maybe, or I'm not sure when, they also said you can put a holding tank on a seasonal place without having to make that statement, there's no feasible alternative. So people who just, and this is a seasonal place, he doesn't have heat, he'll drain the water before he leaves, so we don't have to do a perk test, we don't have to demonstrate, it's an allowable to put a holding tank in there.
Okay.
Prior, you had to, write letters and say there was no feasible alternative before they give you a permit. Holding tanks now, used to have to go to the DEP, but not anymore, they just do it at local level.
That's good. Yeah, I used to get those letters.
What's that?
I used to get those letters and make a decision, and
Yeah.
it was hard.
All right, Becky, you want to see if there's anybody in the audience?
So this is good.
Is there anyone on the public line that would like to speak in regards to the 45 Bennett's Road notice of intent? Again, is there anyone on the line who'd like to speak for the 45 Bennett's Road notice of intent?
Becky, in-house?
Anyone who'd like to speak?
Lenny?
All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All right. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of closing the public hearing?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Thank you. Motion to approve.
Make a motion that we approve the 45 Bennett's Road project of NOI for a septic system and repair and installation of a well, DEP file number 300-1105, with associated comments from the agent.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
All right, we are now at,
Thank you, have a good evening.
yep, thank you.
See you, have a good evening.
Good night, Mark.
Take care, Mark.
134, 148 Lake Road, request,
Who's got to sign in, please?
134, 148 Lake Road, request to amend an order of conditions, DEP file number 300-1067, additional pavement to the lake road.
Okay, so we do have a written request from the project representative for a continuance to the August 17th, 2021 meeting, or 2020. Mary recently spoke to the project engineer, and he wasn't aware that they've already paved the road, and that when he went out there to review the site after the initial grading and drainage work that was done, which was what the permit was approved for, also did note that the contractor didn't follow the plan, some variations in pipe sizes, there was no swales along the side of the road going down, et cetera. So they need to do an as-built plan for that, and in order for him to assess what was implemented, if it meets the intent of the original plan and meeting the stormwater standards. So he needed some additional time to do that.
No, hold on, Becky. The original plan was to take care of the problem on Lake Road.
Yep.
The plan was not followed by the contractor. Why is the contractor not required to go back, undo what he did, and follow the plan? Because the engineers originally said this is the way that you're going to solve the problems on Lake Road.
Right.
If you start reducing the size of the pipes, which is what the contractor did, then that's going to bring the problems right back to where they were before.
Right, I think that's.
I don't see how we can walk away from the fact that somebody screwed up.
Yeah, well, I think that it's important that the engineer looks at what was done to evaluate that, to come back to you. But I also think it's important that maybe a letter's issued to the permit holder and the contractor, making them aware of the concerns and their non-compliance with the permit, and potentially, depending on the review of the PE, that there could be changes required in order to meet those standards. So I think that's a necessary step at this time, since.
Well, we've got them coming back to 17th, right?
Right.
Is there any damage being done to the lake now?
I haven't been out there to look at it, but well, we drove through there before, but, I mean, you have to go out during a rainstorm. They do have the swale, they have catch basins in, and they do have the swale going down into the lake. But I'm not aware of exactly what's not in compliance and how that might be affecting it. I think during a rain event might be a good time to look at it. Now that it's paved, it's not carrying silt anymore, but I'm not sure, so.
My problem with doing it this way, though, for the whole committee, is that it sets a precedent. We'll give you a plan, Conservation Commission, and it will solve the problem that we have. Then we won't follow the plan. Oh, and the plan didn't get followed when they come back to us, so let's change the plan to make it meet with whatever the heck it is that we did to the roadway. That's not how it's supposed to work.
Well, I think what he's saying is he needs an as-built, the engineer needs an as-built, so he can look at it and do his analysis to see if it still meets the intent of the original plan. But I think that you have an open permit that they didn't follow, you have the right, if it's not meeting the standards and meeting the
How can it
performance
meet the
standards
intent
to
of the original
change it.
plan if they downsize the piping?
I'm not arguing with you, I'm just saying, I think that at this point, I'm not sure what you can do, you know what I mean? We don't know what size pipes, what's the difference, he needs to look at that. But I think it's important to send them a letter and making them aware that, you know, you've been made aware that they didn't follow the plan, and it's a violation, and that there could be
They're
concerns.
coming back in with a new plan, right? So ostensibly, they know they didn't follow the old plan,
Well,
no?
right, well, they're gonna do an as-built plan, and come back.
I would think
And-
before they do an as-built plan, that an engineer should look at how those pipes got sized. And either that was oversized, or that fit the models that they ran, and
Well, I think that's part of what he needs to do, and that's why they have to get a survey crew out there and look at everything. That's part of what they're doing. I think you have the right, if you have a concern with what he comes back with from his review, if there's an issue with the pipe size, then you have the right to have them comply with that plan.
But one of the reasons that I'm bringing this up is not only an altruistic reason. That same contractor worked on another site in town and did not work to a plan.
Well, that's why I think it's important to send a letter, maybe just outlining that.
how about a penalty? Oh, no, we don't do that, do we? That's right.
All right, we want to send a letter?
Yes.
All right, Becky, all in favor of sending a letter to him?
Yeah.
Strongly worded.
Yeah, okay.
But also, I think it might be a waste to have them submit an as-built plan. I mean, that's like really falling into this whole
Well,
mess. I mean,
We may need that to get it evaluated, though, right?
Yeah.
that's my understanding of it, that's why they're doing it. But I think you should put them on notice that,
oh, I see what you're saying, yeah. He needs to look at I was thinking he'd go out there and he'd measure the pipes and look at the calculations. That's the word I was looking for.
yeah, he needs to, right, as
The
they're doing.
calculations and say, no, this called for a 10-inch pipe, and you
Right.
put in a 6-inch pipe, and that's not going to work.
Excuse me.
And then he has to rip it out at his cost.
All right, let's check to see if there's anybody in the audience who'd like to speak
Yeah.
to this.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak about the 134 through 148 Lake Road request to amend orders of conditions? Is there anyone on the public line who would like to speak in regards to 134 or 148 Lake Road request to amend in orders of conditions? Anyone in the audience who would like to speak on that?
You're here on Lake Road, Lenny?
Did I what? Did I what?
You want to speak in regards to the Lake Road? Or you thinking I'm talking about Bennett's, the next one down?
No, I'm, no, there's no one, is there anyone here? I'm for Bennett's Road.
Oh, you're next, but you can sit for now,
You
yeah.
can sit down, Lenny.
I'm trying to expedite.
Get used to it, you're up there.
All right, hearing no one in the audience, Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Well-
No,
Well, are you gonna grant them a continuance to August 17th?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. With a letter being sent. All in favor?
Eric Caspar in favor.
Great. All right, now we're at Lenny Jalbert's new cottage.
I think we're 3 minutes ahead of schedule.
We're working on it.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, we've got,
59 Bennett's Road.
yeah, you've got a few minutes.
we got.
So let me stop sharing that screen.
You're in a different time zone, Eric.
How about the minutes?
Yeah, you're,
Yeah, something
you're
quick here.
actually 57 minutes ahead of schedule or something like that, than where I am, but
Well, you know.
you got 3 minutes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes of our previous meeting as submitted.
I will second that. Those were excellent minutes.
Discussion, any? All in favor?
Other in fact, they were excellent.
Eric Caspar in favor.
5-0.
All right, we've got a few more minutes. Jesse, Katie, are you on the line?
Yes.
Okay, we've got a few minutes. Number 23 on the agenda. So I will just start this out. I'm actually going to share my screen. I did mark something up, so that way there was a visual to look at, to just be able to get a better view of what we're talking about here. So I'll just start off on this one. So this is, let me find my word here. This is a minor amendment request. So this is a permit that was issued, that's been constructed. They installed a parking spot along the road. I did provide some photos. If you didn't have a chance to look at that, I can pull them up on the screen. I did mark that in the pinkish purple color here on the plan, if you can see it. Up by the road, it's just outside the 100-foot buffer zone. It's outside of what was the approved limit of work. Just so you're aware too, on the yellow on this plan here is where the approved limit of work line was on this side of the property. There is a kind of purple pinkish dash line. They were able to pull that limit of work back. That's the location where it was the closest to resource area. I think it was about 40 feet from the wetland. They did pull that back and did save, approximately, I was told, about 20 feet in one area. The engineer did draft this plan that we're looking at. There's a couple things that they still need to add on it. The engineer's working on it. They weren't able to have that ready for this meeting. There is a roof runoff structure that they installed that he needs to show on the plan. We had some mitigation plantings which were put in, which included 2 deciduous trees and 4 bushes up towards the front area. They're just actually behind this parking area. And you can see in the driveway, there was kind of that turnaround area. They didn't install that turnaround area, so they put this parking area by the edge of the road. It's not exactly what was approved at the last time, so I brought it to their attention. The new property owner would like to keep that here. It's outside the 100-foot buffer zone, so he submitted a request for a minor amendment for that. Considering they're able to make some improvements and pull back the limit of work on the site, and considering the proximity of where this parking area is in relation to resource area, and that's not having an impact on resource area, I would recommend approving the minor change. But we do need that reflected on that final plan to be submitted, as well as the other things I mentioned that we're waiting on.
Okay. Steve?
What did the DPW, were they okay with that?
They were, I did contact them. The driveway was signed off. And my understanding was the parking spot was there when they signed off on it, so.
Consider that part of the driveway.
Becky, did it increase the impervious area?
It's not impervious, it's, Jesse, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's some type of, well, actually, what is the material?
We did our driveway base material, so not asphalt. It's the gravel that we use underneath.
Okay.
Yeah. But actually, they did, like I was saying earlier, they didn't include that other section, the turnaround on the driveway. So they reduced impervious, actually.
That's what I was thinking might have happened.
Yeah.
Steve, any?
No, I'm good.
And I don't have any comments either. Becky, because it's a minor, do we just have to vote on it?
Yeah, I'd recommend voting on it, yep.
All in favor of the change?
Eric Gaspar, in favor.
Yep. Thank you, Becky.
Thanks, Jesse. We'll issue you a letter with that, and then just have the engineer submit that plan as soon as possible, please.
Will do. We should have that hopefully by the end of the week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to, excuse me, Lenny, 59 Bennett's Road, continued NOI, DEP file number 300-1103. Representative is L. Jalbert, Jalbert Engineering.
Okay, what is actually happening here is, I'm coming before you again tonight, mainly there's a hang-up between the Board of Health and the Zoning Board of Appeals. I see nothing or any problem with the Zoning Board of Appeals rather than the getting the special permit, and it's within the zone, and it's acceptable by the town planner, so I see nothing wrong with that particular issue. However, that will not take place until August 18th. The Board of Health, which the septic system, which is shown on the plan which we submitted, is exactly in the area that we propose to build, and we go over the hearing with the planning, with the Board of Health. What happened with the Board of Health is that before we came in with a tight tank system, but they wanted a regular system, which we put in the process of doing the regular system, we had to get a permit from the abutters and with a special hearing, and that hearing will be done on August 9th. Irregardless of the outcome of the August 9th meeting, the system will in fact be installed in the area as shown on the plan. It will not derogate from the intent of the installation, and the fact that the area there is so small that nothing can be changed, so.
Becky, can you bring that up on?
The plan?
Yeah.
This hasn't changed since the last plan you gave me before? I think I only have the original plan because things were kind of on hold.
Which is, you have the original plan, which is under revision 1, I'd assume.
I think
I don't remember.
oh, hold on. No, well, Lenny,
Trying to find it.
yeah, so Lenny actually submitted a written request for an extension, so I didn't have a plan since the last time we looked
Okay.
at it, because I thought we were just going to be giving an extension for them to do that.
All right, so you're looking for an extension, Lenny?
Continuation, yeah.
Unfortunately, I originally requested an extension in written form. Okay, however, because of time constraints and everything else, if we get the extension, it's going to throw us down at least another month before, because your meeting's when, the 20th? August?
We have August 3rd and 17th.
Okay, which I missed, that puts us into September. So that puts me down 2 months.
Yeah, but we're doing what you requested.
What I'd like to do, I did request it, it's written, okay? But what I would like to have it approved contingent upon approval of the Board of Health and the Zoning Board of Appeals, as shown in the plan.
So I don't think I have,
She doesn't have a
That
plan to
plan.
put up. I don't know what she's,
Which plan, which one you have?
so I think the last one I have, what's the number on your plan?
That's one, and number 4, which is right here.
Is it? Yeah, so you have these two
Yep.
tanks here and the septic. I don't have that one. I think this last revision was 415. So there was,
That was revision 3, this is revision
That's-
4. If you notice that the field hasn't changed the location, okay?
I don't think we're walking toward anything but a continuation here.
yeah, well, instead of maybe your August 17th, would you like to submit this newest plan and continue to August 3rd? Just a reminder, there was questions had about work next to the lake too.
Yeah.
I don't have the specifics with me because I didn't think we were going to have this conversation.
If the residents are going to ZBA over this, did I hear that correctly?
Say that
The
again?
residents are definitely going to go to ZBA.
Yeah, so I don't,
Well, we don't have the,
Yeah, we don't have
we don't
that.
have the plan.
right.
I mean,
Oh, what I'm saying is we need a continuation.
yeah, I mean, if we had the plan, in my opinion, if we evaluated it for us, for purposes, and, and then let the ZBA and Board of Health, whatever, deal with it. Many times when I was on the planning board, we would say, get the wetlands, get the Concom to approve this, and, because otherwise, we're just wasting our time. So, but we don't have the plan, so, yeah, good idea, but I don't see that that's
Yeah.
going to work in this
I'd like
case.
to make a motion that we continue this to the 17th,
Or the 3rd, maybe?
or the 3rd, either one.
Right, if you can submit material, submit the plan, and then, right, address the questions that they had at the last hearing.
The questions they had was, one was, are there any trees to be removed? And there's no trees in that area to be removed. Which is in this section right here, nothing's being removed.
Yeah, I think the questions were more around the house.
They're staying as is, there's a tree that's there that's staying, and there's one right over here that's staying.
Okay, and I think you had some questions about change in grade in the front of the house by the lake. I think I can go back to the meeting minutes and get those particular questions for you if you'd like.
I've got them.
You got
We
them?
can bring it
Okay.
back on the 3rd.
Yeah, do you want to come back on the 3rd then? Okay, so just, right, supply the plan and the questions they had about the site work, et cetera.
All right?
Thank you for your time.
All right, so it's the 3rd, gentlemen, all in favor? Continuation to the 3rd? Yep. Thanks.
Eric Gaspar, in favor.
Hey, Lenny, when are you going to have your son start to come in and do this work for you?
He's down the Cape telling me how great the sun was today.
Darn, those sons.
I tell you, you didn't raise anything better than I did.
There's an advantage being a son.
122 Main Street, notice of intent, continued redevelopment of a gas station / convenience store, DEP file number 300-1093. Becky?
Yep, so I'll just start. We have the project engineer in here, and I think we have the applicant as well. Nice to see you, Steve.
Good evening, nice to see you as well.
Thanks. All right, so this is a continuation. We had a peer review done, and then comments were provided with some plan revisions that also went back to peer review. So that's kind of where things were left on this. So additional BMPs have been incorporated into the project to manage and treat stormwater from the gas station. That was the concern, the biggest concern that was outstanding. As I said, peer review was completed. The only comment they had was to include a condition requiring submission of the illicit discharge statement provided by the property owner. It was signed by the engineer, and they just recommend having that prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy. So as the project is a redevelopment, they demonstrated compliance with the stormwater standards to the maximum extent practical. It would appear that they've done so and are making improvements to the site for stormwater, as there were none. And just as a reminder too, I didn't have it in my notes, but they are decreasing impervious area on the site. They do have the 2 additions on the structures, and they're infiltrating roof runoff. They've added additional plantings. The drainage improvements that are on the plan, I can pull that up once Steve wants to go over that for you. We did have some pretreatment that was added to collect stormwater coming off where the gas pumps would be. There was an initial treatment there, and then they also added additional treatment and infiltration. The last concern that the peer reviewer had was the one BMP they had was sufficient for pre-treatment, but you still need to have additional treatment. So they did add that to the plan, which I'll pull up in a minute here for you. So, you know, my recommendation at this point, I think you're in a position that you can approve the project. I'd recommend our standard conditions, the condition to submit the illicit discharge statement, and then as there's stormwater structures in the property, those additional perpetual conditions for, you know, operation and maintenance of them. So, Steve, I'll pull up that plan, and I can go over that if you like.
Have you looked at the operation and maintenance plan, Becky?
Yes, that was included with their submission. Yep.
Have you looked at it?
I did look at it when it came in, and it was provided to the peer reviewer, too.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to share my screen here. There's 4 sheets, so just let me know where you would like me to go, if you'd like to go over them.
Again, for the record, Steve Gioso with SciTech Civil and Environmental Consultants. I think, Rebecca, if you could go to the second sheet in the set, that probably gives us the most complete picture of the stormwater systems
Okay.
that we're proposing. Yes, so this is the grading and drainage plan for the site, and what you see on the screen is, at the present time, is the existing building and the 2 small infill additions that are being proposed. For stormwater management, as this project has evolved and getting input from the commission members as well as your peer review consultant, we've added some structured drainage that was not on our original plan. And just backing up a little bit, this is an existing gas station convenience store that did not have any on-site stormwater systems in place, or does not have any stormwater systems in place. And so we're looking at this as an opportunity to get some significant upgrades to both volume mitigation as well as water quality mitigation. Some of the key components are, we are eliminating a little bit of lot coverage, but we're also eliminating a bit of paved surface and replacing it with building footprint. So we're taking out parking space or paved areas that are inefficient and really aren't serving the property correctly, but are contributing to the sediment loads to the adjacent wetland system. And we're replacing it with a roof area that is going to have roof drains directed to on-site recharge systems. So we have 2 sets of recharge systems, one on the east side of the building, and that will pick up the back end of the site, plus some of the front drainage that'll be routed to the back. And then on the north side of the building, we would also have a similar recharge system, which will pick up the balance of the roof drains and direct that into a recharge area in that location on the north side. So right now, there are no recharge elements on the site, so we think that's a net increase or improvement. With the replacement of the fuel tanks, we're getting environmental protection and more up-to-date, state-of-the-art monitoring of the tanks. The systems delivering the fuel to the pump islands are all having remote monitoring, so that leak detection is very high-tech today in terms of the new gas station standards that the Commonwealth and the EPA require or mandate for these sites. But also on the surface runoff coming through, we are adding a trench drain interceptor, which will pick up runoff that may originate on the pump island area that bypasses any of the controls there. And that would direct any of that surface water into a water quality treatment unit. The treatment unit would give us a better than 80% TSS removal. And then from that system, we have an overflow into a grass area. We'll have riprap for velocity control at the outlet from the water quality unit. And then that's going to be directed down to a amended soil area where we've come in proposing amending the soil to get a sand compost mix, and then we'll add a conservation seed mix at the base of that filter area or bioretention area, and then allow the water to continue down gradient following the existing drainage pattern. Our goal is to eliminate any impact on the steep slope, which creates a nice buffer between the subject property and the adjacent resource area, so we've managed to do that. We've also added a crushed stone filter strip along the edge of pavement so that the small amount of water that does bypass the trench drain would then be filtered through a crushed stone filter strip, and then the overflow from that, if it is exceeded, would be directed into the bioretention area. So we've got a multiple layer drainage system proposed, a reduction in paved surfaces proposed on this site, all new equipment, which is going to be state-of-the-art and meet current EPA and DEP standards, and I think improved recharge and some additional landscaping being provided to the site. So we think all of those are upgrades. We know that your peer reviewer has reviewed it, and we think we have a positive recommendation from them. We've also included a maintenance schedule, which includes the manufacturer's maintenance protocol for the site in terms of periodic inspections and cleaning, as well as the other parts of the system to be periodically inspected and cleaned and have the mulch refreshed as needed in accordance with DEP guidelines for those types of systems. So we think the net result is the site has evolved a bit since our initial filing with you, and I think it's evolved in a positive way with some much needed water quality improvements on this somewhat tired site, and we think the end result would be an improved stormwater system and benefit to the down gradient resource area. So it is a buffer zone project and a redevelopment project. We believe we meet all the applicable standards, and with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
David, no? Stephen? Ed, no?
No, I think they've come a long way with this project.
And that, Beck, you want to check to see if...
Sure.
Eric, do you have any comments? Sorry.
No, I think they've made a lot of
Sorry,
improvements
Eric.
here. I'm happy with
I'm
it.
not ignoring
That's
you.
okay.
You're very
That's
little
okay.
on my screen, Eric.
It's the only time I've been called that.
Is there anyone in the audience or on the public line that would like to speak in regards to the 122 Main Street Notice of Intent? Again, anyone who would like to speak in regards to the Notice of Intent for 122 Main Street? Nope.
Nobody? All right. We have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do I have any discussion? Seeing none, do I have a recommendation?
You'd like to have a vote first.
Oh, yeah, that's, I'm rushing you guys, okay. Vote on closing the public hearing?
Eric Gaspar, in favor.
You don't want to be here till midnight?
No.
We will.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve of the redevelopment project at 122 Main Street, which is DEP file number 300-1093, with the multiple comments and order of conditions from the agent.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar, in favor.
Thank you, Eric.
Who asked you?
All right, we are now at, what's the time?
6:55.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
We're right on time.
We're
Yep.
out of time. Okay.
Wow.
30 Main Street / 20 Fisk Hill Road, notice of intent, development of a residential and commercial cul-de-sac subdivision, DEP file number 300-1086. Becky?
Hello.
Hey, Matt?
How are we? Greetings. Good evening.
We do well.
So just a quick summary, so let me get to my notes here. So this is a continuation. We've had additional materials received for review. Those were provided to you, included PAR Engineering peer review memo, which came in right before the last meeting. In addition, we have McClure's response letter, and then we have Ecotech's letter in response to the last review of plans and comments. We also have Art on the line, and he can go over his memo and comments for you when you're ready.
Yeah, are you ready for us, Becky?
Up to the board, how do you want to
Go ahead,
proceed?
Matt.
Yeah, no, I think we feel like we're in pretty good shape here. I think I shouldn't say we, because Peter did all the work, but responded to what was a fairly long list last time we were here. Knocked off, I think, everything with the exception of the bank area, which, I make it sound like I know what I'm talking about, but Peter has a little work to do for Art. Art pointed out that the absence of some detail on that bank area, do I have that about right?
The culvert, which outlets into Route 20, we just need to adjust the buffer zone to include that as a resource area.
If you could talk a little louder, the
Oh, yeah, we
TV audience would
Sure.
love you for it.
About that.
So the first one, what Matt is referring to, is the culvert leading from Wetland D into Main Street. That culvert is technically part of the stream, so that culvert would have its own buffer zone. So we just have to add that to the plan.
Okay, so it's not detail, it's just the buffer, expression of the buffer zone, so it shouldn't change.
Right.
Right, so the culverted stream has bank, needs to be shown as bank, which it's a jurisdictional resource area, so it still has those buffer zones. So that just needs to be added on the plan. That was one of Art's comments before, we just didn't note it earlier, so.
Yeah, there was some confusion over,
How to label.
we labeled it, but we didn't adjust the buffer zone, just because I've personally never seen a culvert with a buffer zone, but if that's what the Wetland Protection Act does include culvert in the definition of a stream, so we're willing to do that.
Simple thing, we add the buffer zone, and the only other issue, I think, Becky, if you'll agree with me, I don't know, but, is the ILSF area that has a long chronology, sort of, started with Ecotech, spotting it under his peer review, way back in either late, 2020 or very early 2021, and then he asked that it be reevaluated. Everybody, including Ecotech, reevaluated it. Everybody involved determined that it wasn't a bordering vegetated wetland or a vegetated wetland of any type, isolated or bordering. That left us with, is it an ILSF? And Peter did the calcs. It did not have the volume to meet the definition in the Wetland Protection Act. And then we bumped into the fact that there's no minimum volume in the Sturbridge Wetland Bylaw. It says, basically refer Sturbridge Wetland Bylaw to your bylaw, obviously but refer to Wetland Protection Act for the definition, and then there's no minimum volume. So we're left with, kind of debating back and forth how to handle that. We don't want to put it on the plan, although I will tell you that there's no road construction, we're not filling it, it's not proposed that we do anything, we're not planning on doing anything in that area, but we are trying to just stick to, if it's a wetland or if it's a true ILSF, we'll put it on the plan. In this case, we're pretty well convinced now that and if you read Ecotech's last week memo of last week, he says, I don't want to screw up, maybe Art can speak for himself at this point, probably not a bad place for him to jump in, but he says there's no meaningful value to this area. The only thing it does potentially do, and Peter has to calculate this based on like a 7-inch rainfall, is potentially store some water. So we have a lot of compensatory storage areas in the stormwater management component to the road. So it has no wetland value, no habitat value. It doesn't meet the definition of an ILSF per the Wetland Protection Act. We don't think it meets the definition of a ILSF per the Sturbridge Wetland Bylaw, which I can explain further if we get that far. So we don't want to put that area on the plan, and obviously I'm encouraged that Art's here so we can kind of talk that through with him.
How many cubic feet would it be under the Wetlands Protection Act? The
Quarter acre.
quarter acre, what does that end up being cubic
I think it's
feet?
less than cubic feet.
Yeah.
The quarter acre thing, it's like 11,300 or something. Cubic feet is a quarter acre foot.
It also has to have a
In the 6 inches?
minimum average depth of
So-
6 inches, which this
So
does not have.
in here, you say the inflow to the area has a volume of 30,662 cubic feet, and the outflow with a volume of 28,314. So what, you subtract those, and that gives you your,
That's what would be stored during the rainfall event. The actual holding volume of that depression is around like 5,500. So it's
okay, so it's less. Okay, I'm just trying to understand how that relates to that.
So, yeah, just to summarize that, and I could probably go on because we've been obviously studying this and you haven't. The only potential value to this depression is that it stores water in extreme rainfall scenarios. And with the road construction and the stormwater management enhancements, frankly, of the detention basin out front and everything, you know, we've accounted for all that water, and we didn't account for any of it being stored in this area, is what I'm saying. So we've kind of, we've overprotected any flows that are presently, if in fact there are any, being stored in there. I know everybody went out there in April, according to Ecotex, I know this because I just reread it, Becky, but everyone went out there, LEC and Ecotech, and said in April that there was no water stored in there after the winter season, early spring season there, right in the middle of it, and there was no leaf staining, you know, there was really nothing, nothing indicating water storage. So, long story short, what we're looking for is just to not put this particular area on the plan, and, you know, we have, of course, a basis for that, and we think from the perspective of just complying with the Sturbridge Wetland Bylaw, we would be in compliance with that as well, because the average depth of this area is less than 6 inches. Becky?
So, right, I mean, it sounds like from the analysis you've done under the state act, it wouldn't be jurisdictional. But right, the local bylaw doesn't have that, the size criteria.
Well, it doesn't have the volume, but it doesn't exclude the depth. So if you refer to, the Sturbridge Wetland Bylaw refers to the Wetland Protection Act and then says, but there's no minimum volume. It doesn't say, but there's no minimum depth as well. So it doesn't say, and when you go to the Wetland Protection Act and it says it has to have the minimum volume and that minimum depth. So this doesn't have the minimum depth. So our interpretation of that, and I have obviously run this by my attorney to make sure I wasn't, you know, out on some type of limb on our interpretation, but, you know, legally that interpretation held water. Huh? That's a good pun. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you laughing. But yeah, you know, it certainly, after his research, made sense.
All right, you've made your point, right?
I think I have.
That was even longer than your memo.
Well, I wrote that for Becky.
Let's get Art on because he's there. And
Sure.
Probably didn't have a sandwich yet tonight.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Come on, Art.
Good to go. Good yourselves?
Good.
Arthur Allen from Ecotech, peer review consultant for the commission. Yeah, I mean, that was a relatively accurate, description of, in summary of what the information that was provided through McClure July 13th. I responded as noted on July 14th with a memorandum. I definitely agree. This thing has, essentially no function or value relative to the bylaw. Obviously, I agree that it's not regulated under state or federal criteria. but I would agree that, you know, its only potential function is that small amount of flood storage. You know, and really even deferring back to the Wetlands Protection Act, I mean, when isolated land subject to flooding, you know, are not vegetated wetlands, they're not vernal pools, really, you know, the only value they provide is flood storage, and that's the only thing you have to, you know, compensate for if you want to fill one of these, you know, otherwise, you know, de minimis isolated land subject to flooding. You know, again, it's just a runoff flood storage issue. I mean, I guess I take issue with the comment that it would have to pond 6 inches. I mean, I believe that's negated by the sentence that there's in the bylaw regs that there's no minimum requirement for volume. If you have no minimum requirement, how can you pond 6 inches? So it's kind of a, you know, it's a little bit of a contradiction, but you know, under the bylaw, you know, I would still argue that this is an isolated and subject to flooding, albeit with, you know, the only value being flood storage. It's my understanding that they're not filling it, so the storage that it provides is still there. You know, whether they show it or not, I don't potentially see the harm in showing it. They've obviously, you know, gone through the analyses. They're compensating for it. Sorry, cat on screen. And that's kind of my stance. Yeah, and again, the only other issue I had was showing, you know, denoting the bank and buffer zone associated with that stream culvert draining the D-series wetland. And almost more importantly is the fact that they're daylighting that stream. So at that point, the stream really does have additional, you know, value and legitimately, you know, has a functional buffer zone once it's daylighted. So, you know, kind of reinforces the thought of making sure that has a buffer carrying into the, you know, daylighted and restored stream channel once the culvert's removed. So that's it. Thank you.
Becky, do you have the plan with the new entrance on it?
I do have it with me.
Can you put it up?
Do you want me to do it with the hard copy, or you want me to put it up on the?
Can you put it up on the?
Yep.
While she's doing that, can I make one response to Mr. Allen?
If it's new, yeah.
Yeah, it's new, in the sense that the volume and the depth are, I'm reading, I have the Wetland Protection Act open in front of me. It wasn't an accident that they said minimum volume and minimum average depth. And you can, if you splice something out 1 inch deep over a much wider area, obviously you can meet the volume requirements and not meet the depth. So it says very, very specifically in the Wetland Protection Act, and to an average depth of at least 6 inches. We, you know, can't sort of parse out the language. I mean, it is, they're both there, and the word "and" was very specifically used by somebody sometime, somewhere.
Okay. You putting that, Beck?
Yeah, I'm just navigating over and zooming in.
Well, instead of having lapsed time while Becky's looking that up,
Yeah.
have you had any results with Lot 3 yet?
Results.
The senior housing development?
Those guys are waiting for us.
And we're waiting for you.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're waiting for us to complete the process here with you guys.
Can you see this, or do you want me to, can you see it?
Yep.
Do you want me to zoom in there?
Make sure I'm gonna get.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the entrance.
And I don't see how we can improve it.
So I'll zoom in a little bit more for the,
Yeah.
Well, we're just doing the road. Maybe nothing goes in there.
if nothing goes in there, then you have no emergency exit, and therefore you don't have the waiver in order to put in a 1,000-foot road.
Now, Art, is this satisfactory with what you were looking for when we discussed this? This entrance, the change to the culvert?
The daylighting of the culvert, yes, I had reviewed this previously and said I was in agreement with it, yes.
So now, what are the, Becky, can you read the setbacks? I can't read them from here. What are we looking at for setbacks on the road?
For setbacks on the road?
Yeah.
Well, at one point, it's, on Main Street, it's 0, because it can go.
Yeah, no, I'm, you know,
It
What do you
doesn't
wanna do?
change much
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah.
of the setback.
So this is the
Oh, you're talking about our setbacks?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, okay.
so as of right now, this culvert on this plan does not have a buffer zone, which is what the issue is. So what we're showing as the 25-foot buffer is just for the wetland. Once we give that culvert a buffer zone, the 25-foot buffer will come like this, up and around this existing manhole.
So what are you doing with that culvert? I'm sorry.
This culvert is coming out, and we're replacing it with a stream channel. So we're going to restore the old stream channel, which is currently a dilapidated, rusty pipe.
Right, and that was a condition by DOT?
Right.
Right, because you can't connect to their structures, so.
Okay, slide it up along, Becky. Anything else that, so you really haven't finished the entrance?
The only change would be this buffer zone.
Oh, yeah, so you haven't finished the entrance?
Sure.
You mean the design of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it won't change, it'll just, the buffer.
Nothing's going to change.
But you've got a detention basin there, right?
The detention
Is that
basin is
gonna be
on the
taken out?
other side of the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know it gets confusing, but the only thing that's changing, and Art's still on the phone, he can confirm this, is the plan will now show a buffer off of this new, what do you call it, stream channel?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's actually just a plan enhancement.
So
It's
there's
not,
no storage?
no
change-
design change
No
whatsoever.
storage changes there?
No.
Okay.
No, it's just
That was what I was-
a change to the plan to make it more accurate,
Yeah.
but it's not a design alteration.
And when would we get those plans with showing the buffer zone?
Well, I couldn't turn on a CAD system, so that's a question for this guy.
I could have it tomorrow if you wanted it that soon.
Anything else? Can you slide up along, Becky? It's been a while since I've actually seen the plan.
So this is where, right, we've got the stormwater management system. And they also have the addition of the rain garden up here. So on the original plan, there was the catch basins at the bottom part of the road that they were providing pre-treatment, but there was no infiltration, and they originally had it proposed that the discharge would be within 25 feet. So they've been able to pull that back, and they've added a rain garden to provide some additional treatment, and then also infiltration. So that was one of my original comments, that there was no infiltration, and it was within the 25-foot buffer. So they did work to make improvements on that.
All right. That pretty much, those answer
So-
my questions.
Do they need a continuation to at least do that buffer zone, but we still have to deal with the
Isolated land.
isolated land?
Yeah.
Subject to flooding.
Yeah, we have to deal with that. I mean,
Right.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
go for it. Anytime. You should interrupt at any point. I'm sorry, you know.
No, don't worry, it's all good. I know, I'm very small. So, there seems to be some contention over this. I'm just curious, I certainly have some, tolerance for your reading of the word "and" into the bylaw, but I'd just be curious from your perspective. I'm not a real fan of, well, I just don't want to put it on the plan, so there's got to be a harm in there in your eyes. So I'd be curious as to what your position is and your feeling is for the harm that's going to be caused to this project of having it on the plan.
Well, I think we're all here to be accurate. So for first and foremost, I think that if it's not jurisdictional, we're not here to put stuff on a plan that doesn't meet, the bylaw. So that's first. Secondly, I don't know if it was last meeting or 2 meetings ago, Eric, but you're the one who raised a great point about hardships. And I don't want to put this on a plan, something that might affect the future development in the A&R lots along the left side of this roadway. So, I mean, for me to say, oh yeah, let's put it on the plan, there's a third one. Let me get to that first. Then there's buffers. If we say that this is an ILSF and it's jurisdictional, now we have buffer zones that extend, obviously extensively out from this area. So, that obviously impedes future development, et cetera. So back to what you were referring to a couple meetings ago, I don't want to put this on this plan and then find myself in a hardship and arguing something in front of you months from now. And so I just want to do this accurately and properly and the right way here and now, so that we don't have a problem later.
Okay, no, thank you, and I have sympathy for that, because I just one man's opinion for a comment. I don't believe that that there is enough here to force him to put this on the plan with the questions that are out there, and especially with the bylaw reading. And I believe that we should be reading it as and. And I have some, I certainly have agreement to and sympathy to the applicant's opinion on that. So thank you for the time, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else?
Well, I have questions.
Go for it.
Okay, I just asked about Lot 30, because in reading the assessment that was done for both the planning board and for the Conservation Commission, Lot 30 was mentioned a lot. For example, I objected in the very first meetings, I think, first or second meeting, to the entire plan because it was a segmented plan. Because we were being told that we had to look at this plan and then there would be a different plan for lot number 3.
Right.
Well, now we get the results of the advisory group that looked at this very carefully from both perspectives, from planning and from Concom, and what they came up with was interesting things, like the study for their traffic, the traffic study that was done, it depends upon what happens at lot 3. Whatever happens on lot 3 is not considered in the traffic study at the present time, because they don't know what's going into lot 3.
I don't mean this.
But they specifically said that.
No, this traffic study, in fact, does include almost a maximum density in lot 3, so it's the opposite technically.
Matt, could you lean into the microphone?
Quotation that says,
Wait a minute, Eric, you can't hear?
Yeah, Matt's just a little too far from the microphone, I'm sorry.
I didn't want to interrupt you anyway, but I just.
there's a direct quotation from the investigators that indicated that relative to the traffic study, which is based on lot 3, which is not yet developed, is confusing. That's in direct quotes. They found it confusing. In addition to that, the site-generated traffic is also not known for the final numbers because lot 3 could not be considered. I'm also kind of curious about the waiver
Can I just?
that you're
can I
looking
ask you what are you reading from there? Who said those comments? It wasn't DOT, it wasn't MIPA.
No, it was, Becky, what's the name of the consultants that did us and,
John Shevlin at Pear.
yes,
He did stormwater,
Sure.
traffic,
Right.
and, right, other peer review. It was all one report with the
Yeah, we
stormwater.
addressed all
you
the
guys saw
traffic
it.
issues. And there's a newer letter that is a clean letter referring to all the traffic, which
Well, all right, one other question then.
Itself anyway.
Well, how did you address that?
We revised the traffic report.
But it's still a segmented project, because we don't know what's going into Lot 3. And here's one of the interesting parts. When you finish with all of this stuff, and you look at what happened in the planning department was asked for a waiver to give you guys a 1,000-foot cul-de-sac. In order to get the waiver, you had to have an exit or an access and permission from Southbridge. But that's all going to go through Lot 3. What if the owner of Lot 3 decides he doesn't want that?
Well, I'm the owner of Lot 3.
No, you're selling it.
No, not before it's completely approved. I don't know what, no, I'm open book here. There's no subplots.
I understand that, but Lot 3...
I have the access, that emergency access in Southbridge, that's mine, I bought it. I own all of that lot.
I realize that, but you're selling it.
Eventually, the idea is to sell it to a developer, yes, but until I do, I own it.
Right, but that's part of the problem. You're going to end up in a self-imposed problem if they say no. Whoever buys it says, no, I'm not putting in an exit road.
Yeah.
For what? And then you have to go back and shorten the cul-de-sac?
It's not no, all due respect, it's not my first rodeo. I have a full purchase and sale with these guys. They know exactly what the story is with the access to Southbridge. The only reason they are not simultaneously working through conservation and planning is they're smart people that they don't want to spend their money until I have an approved road.
I got it.
And so there's no subplot with them either. In their perfect world, they'd already be through this and approved, but that just is not sensible.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you at all, but to quote someone who just said it, this is not my first rodeo either.
No, I know that, Mr. Barnacle. I know that very well, sir. And totally appreciate it.
Those are truly gray hairs if there are any left.
I got my fair share.
Okay. Another one that I'm curious about. You are going to end up asking us for a waiver to cut down 10-inch diameter trees?
Is that a planning board waiver?
It was part of the review process. And what they indicated was that I was curious because they started talking about 10-inch diameter trees coming down, and I thought, oh, wait a minute, how many? Well, what it said in the report was, quote again, many. What the hell is that?
Well, we gotta cut trees to put a roadway in.
Yes, and you're going to replace it with flowers or plants or shrubs?
So there's a subdivision regulation that every tree over 10 inches has to be located and shown on the plan. The waiver was to not show that because there's a lot more than just a couple 10-inch trees within that roadway.
Oh, okay, I get you.
But since all of those trees also are probably associated with a wetland, we too should be aware of the trees that are being cut down.
Those trees are well outside the 50-foot buffer, where the roadway is outside the 50-foot buffer in every location of the road. The detention basin, actually the rain garden is within the 50-foot buffer. The roadway itself is outside of the 50-foot wetland buffer. It is within the 100 and 200.
It's getting awful close when they had to bump it up to 28 feet.
That was the planning board's decision. That wasn't, we tried to do 24.
Well, I realize that, but it's now up to 28, and now you also have an order that says you have to put a sidewalk on both sides. So what is that going to do relative to the wetlands that are coming down here?
We're still outside the 50-foot buffer.
You see, one of the problems, it seems to me, and I'm saying this for the full benefit of the board too, is that that slope, by your admission, has got a lot of wetlands on it. And you want to give them to the Fish and Wildlife people because it would be really good for them to have that. But what you're doing is you're putting an entire constructed facility in front of all of these wetlands that are going to be running eventually into the Quinnebog River. And by taking down the trees, you're going to increase the amount of flow. By taking down the trees, you prevent most of the good things that happen when there are those trees. I don't see a net benefit to the town for this.
For what? The project in general?
And because it's a segmented project, as I said, I'm repeating myself, as I said in the first or the second meeting, I just have a great deal of difficulty, even though, Matt, you own the property, you know and I know you're selling it, and we don't know to whom.
I think we do.
No, it doesn't matter if we know to whom. We have to have a plan that shows us what's going on there so that we can then decide whether it's going to interrupt what's happening on the whole project.
We have submitted to conservation and to planning board and to the state a concept plan, but it's all it is. I can't guarantee that that's what the final plan is gonna look like, but you guys have a concept plan, and have for, now I'm thinking in chunks of meetings, but, 5, 6
At least 2 years ago.
Do we have a concept plan?
Yes, and he
Oh, yeah, we
submitted
have
with his
that.
alternative analysis.
Does it go to
going over that.
Southbridge?
It includes the access, the emergency
Yeah.
access to Southbridge.
We've seen that.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
But that's, I'd love to give you, this is exactly what I'm doing, and I have a buyer for this and a buyer for that. Boy, I'd love to be able to tell you that. It's just,
Right.
I don't have it.
Would be a perfect world.
Yes.
We gotta move this along, Dave.
No, I'm done.
What?
I made my comments.
Okay, good. Stephen?
Yeah, just on the subject of the ILSF, I think that's pretty straightforward. We have a peer reviewer that we asked for an opinion, and he gave an opinion saying, in his opinion, it meets the criteria for our bylaws, so I personally think it should be shown on the plan.
Steve, you got anything?
I agree. If there's an issue of the clarity of the bylaw, that's a different forum.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's within our, with your jurisdiction to say, hey, we've looked at a lot of other bylaws and we've made changes. I'd say we should put on a calendar someday to take a look at that bylaw, but right now, according to our consultant and our read, is that it is a ILSF. And as David said, we live and die by precedent. And other thing, let's think and put my ecologist hat on, there are a lot of values of ILSF to the ecosystems and groundwater. And there's like 6 things that these things do. In order to determine that for any one example, would take all kinds of studies. We don't need to do that because if it's an ILSF, we really don't need to know why that would be particularly important. So, in all due respect, Matt, to say it has no value, we don't know what the value is.
Art Allen said that.
And, well,
He has,
He said the only value is flood storage.
right. I don't necessarily agree that he can go out there and look at that and say that. So, and I'm the one that asked Matt after we were arguing and discussing, and I said, what impact is this going to have on your project if you put this on your plan? And you said none. And I said, and I think I know why we were arguing. There was more important things we should have been talking about. So I think it should go on the plan, personally.
I've only got a couple things for you. The ILSF, when I went out there, unlike all of the people who you met, and all the people who you know, all the people who went out there, when I went out there, it was deep, it was full of water, and the whole area was hard to walk through. So when you tell that to somebody the next time, say, Ed Goodwin went out there, and he thought it was holding a shitload of water, excuse my language, at that time. And that was, I don't know what the date was, but.
Yeah, I was there too. I absolutely agree. It was, it was holding
The
a lot
second
of water.
thing, you don't have the sidewalks on the plan, right?
No, we do. They've been added.
The plan that I saw had sidewalks on it?
I'd have to relook at it, but
Oh, I thought they were only on one side.
They, both sides, one side?
I think it's just, it doesn't go up all the way, right? There's no sidewalk right there, but this is the sidewalk?
There's sidewalks on both sides, the entire length.
Okay,
Are they
but
there?
not right here,
Or
right?
not?
That's a apron for a driveway.
Oh, okay, yep. Yeah, they're on here.
They're on there? Okay,
Both sides.
good. That's basically all I have.
Well, listen, you can't fight a losing battle on one hand, on another. You know, Steve talks about precedent. So can you look me in the eyes as an applicant and tell me that there's precedent before me for identifying areas, depressions in God's green earth, that hold water once a year, that are below the size requirements, the minimum requirements for an ILSF in the Wetland Protection Act? Do you guys, to applicants that came before me, ask them to put those on the plan that don't meet the definition of does not meet the definition of an ILSF for the Wetland Protection Act? So, you know, when we talk about it should be on there and it's holier than thou kind of an attitude, this is not, the state tells us this is not an ILSF. There's some arcane provision, and again, right now, we're going to ignore the and, just because it doesn't suit the needs of the Sturbridge Conservation Commission. We're going to ignore. I'm the applicant, and I know you want me to stop talking yet, but
I don't want-
I'm the applicant.
Yeah.
Come on, guys, you are being arbitrary completely to me. It's not, you can't make up the rules. Read the language, follow the words. Steve, you ignored the end because it didn't suit the conclusion you want to make. That's all I can think of. Art Allen, I have no idea, for a guy who does this all the time, why is he ignoring the and? It says volume. Volume is not depth.
All right, we've gone through this to the point, you know.
Do we have,
So
I have one other comment, Mr. Chair.
follow up on your question, do we have we do live and die by precedent. Do we have, not in my memory, but that's not very good, do we have a precedent where we've dealt with this before?
No, we've never been, to my knowledge, we've never been challenged on it.
Right. We haven't had an
They've agreed
applicant that
to
has said,
you
I'm
know,
not going to show this.
I'm not going to put this on the plan. I've never had one before.
No, I agree, I can't.
In all my years, no one has ever. We're following that. We're following. It's amazing. Just, you know.
Mr. Chair, I have one comment separate from this.
Eric, go ahead.
So, I know that David and you and other members of the commission have brought up this segmented project thing in the past, and I admit you can use my youth and inexperience against me, but I think it is a completely arbitrary and unfair standard to put on the applicant when there is no plans in front of us. We can deal with it as it comes. And we have to deal with the project that is in front of us. And I realize that, you can say that we've been burned by this in the past, and I know that there have been instances, but that's why I wanted to make sure that we had the discussion about creating our own hardship. But my stomach really turns every time we talk about a segmented project when there is no justifiable reason to have something that might be or kind of be or could be in the future. We're not soothsayers. That's not our job. And we have a project in front of us. So with all due respect to the other members of the commission that care about that, it's something that I think is problematic in my eyes.
All right, we need to bring this to a head. Are you looking for a vote or a continuation?
He's looking for an order of conditions.
Yeah, I know, for an order of conditions. He knows what I mean.
So what do we do about the ILSF, and we'll come back? Because you're not going to want to, the thing out front is a little plan revision. You could probably approve it contingent upon that. But we don't have a plan in front of you with the ILSF. If you're gonna make us put the ILSF on there, I need to know how you wanna handle it. You know, the Wetland Protection Act goes into we have to agree on.
Yeah, well, not to interrupt, but I think we've talked about the values, and you submitted the letter from LEC, kind of documenting the conditions. Art's looked at it. I mean, Art's opinion is that its only value really is flood storage, right?
No, I meant that if we end up having to put it on the plan, we have to agree on where the limits of the ILSF are. And the
Right, and
Wetland Protection Act sets that out. But
I think Art's talked about that before, and delineating that, so I think that you're gonna have to.
Good question.
And we're putting we have a
engineers gonna have to put that on there. It's not
200-foot
a
buffer zone around this ILSF?
With the Sturbridge, yes, we have a 200-foot, area, but it's not a buffer zone from the point of view of building. We've never used 200 feet.
You mean as like a no-build type of thing, right?
It's jurisdictional.
It's jurisdictional
Matt.
buffer zone.
We have to look at
I
it.
guess what I was getting at, I mean, you're gonna have to figure out how to show that. The engineer's gonna have to do that. I don't think they can just tell you how to do that. But I think that there's already information that you submitted that shows that, right, it has low to no value in some of the areas that it can be significant for. It really is showing that its only value is probably flood storage. If you're not impacting it, you're not showing that you're changing that, it would seem that you're, not having a significant impact on it. And they can evaluate that information to decide.
The roadway's outside 25 feet. It's just, to explain to me, Steve, how a standard
No.
large mud puddle is not an ILSF. You can't have no minimum requirement.
I'm going to give you an alternate, you've got one alternative or the other. Do you want a continuation?
We'll take a continuation.
Okay. All right.
We'll identify the size of the ILSF, we'll put it on the plan.
Okay.
We'll put the buffer zones on the plan, we'll put the buffer zones. Guys, I'm telling you, and that's what we're gonna do, Ed, so, I'll leave with a smile. We're making up the rules as we go.
We're not making up the rules, and in fact, when you get to the point where you make up the actual project, you can work it around it, and we can work with you. But that's the other side of it.
But having no de minimis size, Ed,
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was
We're
talking
through,
about.
we've got to end it.
That would be something that this commission might want to take a look at and say, but, the 5,000 square feet, they're going to say, yeah, that's probably,
We got to move on,
okay.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate that. Hey, good discourse.
Yeah.
It's just,
All in
we
favor
always
of
don't
continuation?
walk away happy, right?
8-3 or 8-7?
We'll be back in August.
8-3, okay.
To 17th, Matt?
17th.
Well, there's.
Oh, yeah, no, I defer.
I can have the plans revised
Okay.
this week.
We'll put those two things on there.
I want to vote. All in favor? Continuation to
Continuation,
17th?
yeah, very good.
All right.
Eric?
Eric Gaspar, in favor.
To what date?
August 3rd.
17th, yeah.
The third.
All right, thank you
Oh,
very much.
The third?
Third.
They're asking for the 3rd.
Okay,
Okay.
Third is good.
Oh, 3rd of August?
Right.
yeah,
Oh, I didn't know you had a meeting.
yeah. All right,
It's on him, as long as he can do it. All right, thank you.
Yep, take
all
care.
right. Thanks, Matt.
After you. I primed them for you. They want to be nice now.
Lenny, what are you still here for?
Well, I've got
The
three,
COC request?
three of them.
Okay.
We have a
I
meeting
didn't know
on
if you
the
were staying
3rd?
for those. All right.
Yes,
Do you need me for those?
The 3rd of August?
yeah. 2 weeks from
I
now.
don't think so.
Are you available for that?
I'm going to have to check at home, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
leaving on the,
We still have another public hearing that we need to do.
That could be a problem.
Well, if David's not available, we might have a problem because I'm going to be in Maine, and that will give us a quorum in the room. I could virtually come in, but I'm not going to be in the state on the 3rd.
I won't
Oh,
be
yeah.
here. My 80th birthday is on the 1st, and I'm going to be in Lubec, Canada, which is right close to the Canadian border. and Wi-Fi and telephone are really strange concepts up there.
Yes.
Eh?
That is not true.
I think you're right, eh?
We're not going to have a quorum in the room then.
Okay,
All right, well, yeah, we'll have to deal with that
We have to
afterwards,
deal with
I
that.
guess. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Becky?
just quickly, so. Okay. Lenny's here, he's got 3 requests for certificates of compliance on it. So if we can just quickly do those so he
Come on
can
up, Lenny.
leave.
Let's do that.
It'll be very, very quick. So we've got
What numbers are they?
You're not going to argue with us, are you?
number 13,
We're done.
202 Lake Road, request for certificate of compliance.
Well, 12,
What's that one?
15,
Oh, that one's yours too.
20.
Oh, 12 also, okay.
12, 15, and 20.
Item 12?
You had 202 Lake, it's just we had delayed it for a while, so, okay, just quickly. So number 12, 55 Bennett's Road, request for certificate of compliance, DEP file number 300-969. Let me just switch over to my things here real quick. So this was a raise and rebuild of a cottage, new well and septic, and there was tree removal and replacements required. Not all the trees were removed as originally noted in the plan. Some additional existing trees were also on site that weren't on the plan, which is between the road and the septic system. They did put some replacement plantings in, which include shrubs. We've got high bush blueberry, winterberry, we've got some low bush blueberry and sweet fern. And then areas along the perimeter of the septic have sapling oaks that have grown in. It's been a few years since they did the work. So those are kind of growing in. And then the mature trees, there was some trees that were supposed to be removed between the new structure and the lake. Those were not removed. I did ask, he did do an as-built plan because there was an amendment that came in and the house ended up being a little bit different than what was originally proposed. It was one owner became a new one. So I asked that he show that on there, and there were steps in a landing that went down to the lake that were replaced in kind. So I had him add those to it too. The people did put a seasonal dock in, and they did get harbor master approval for that. So he did show that on the plan as well. So with all of that said, I would recommend issuance of this certificate of compliance with the perpetual conditions that are noted in the order, which is special conditions 21 and 22. That's all.
All right, number 12 you're talking?
Yep.
All in favor? Great. Lenny, you got that one?
Eric?
Eric?
Yep.
Okay, next we have
Sorry.
202 Lake Road. This is a request for certificate of compliance, DEP file number 300-1006. The request was actually submitted last year. They required another growing season. I went out, did a check. They had replacement plantings. Everything that was required is on site. It's well stabilized. I have no concerns with it. They've met the 2 growing season requirement. I'd recommend issuance with the perpetual conditions noted in the order, which included special conditions 15 through 18 and 26 through 28.
Sounds good.
Any discussion?
Eric Gaspar, in favor.
All in favor, Becky, all 5.
Okay? Number
13.
15, 13 Main Street, request for COC, 300-749. Mr. Jalbert went out and reviewed the site, submitted a letter of substantial compliance. The project included the paving of a existing commercial gravel driveway. Like I said, I went out. The only thing that I noted is there was perpetual conditions with the life of the property. Condition number 33 stated no debris is to be deposited on the slope below the driveway. I did note that they did have some debris down there. I did ask them to remove that. I have not heard back from them yet. And then also number 34 outlines their responsibility to maintain and clean the stormwater system. It's been a few years since the permit's been issued. I did ask that they provide some documentation that they've been doing the maintenance on that, and I haven't heard back from them either. I did submit a letter to the attorney who was representing this as a sale, and that's why the old orders as conditions came up. Besides those 2 things, it appears that everything's been done in compliance. I would just recommend getting them to clean that up and then doing the maintenance. It does look like there might be some maintenance where the outlets are that need to be done, so that would be my recommendation, is just to hold off until they do that work.
I agree.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
You got it on hold?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, we don't, for these, we don't have to ask for continuance on it, but I will follow up with, the attorney, and I think that, right, we can assist with that hopefully and get them to do that. And once we receive that report, we'll put it back on the next agenda.
Right.
And that's how we can handle that. Just quickly, 272 Big Allen Road, number 20, request for certificate of compliance, 300-950. This was another one they submitted last year. It needed 2 growing seasons. I did go back out there. Everything looks really well stabilized. They had 2 rain gardens that were in. I was out there right after a big storm. Things seem to be working very well. I have no concerns with that project.
What number is that again?
It's number 20.
20.
It's 272 Big Allen Road. Yep. Yeah. So we did have, right, there was an amendment. We did have an enforcement order. They worked to address all that. We had the plans revised. They then amended the permit again for those plans. So a bit of restoration, but everything's been done. It looks really good.
All in favor?
Eric Gaspar, in favor.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay, I think you're,
I'd like to thank the board for the liberty of having me go in and get this done, and I'll call my son, it wasn't that bad. See you all
When you
later.
call him, tell him you hope it rains again.
No, we already broke a record. How many records do you need broken?
No, I just wanted to rain on the Cape while he's there.
Yeah, right. Thank you, and have a
Thanks, Lenny.
Thanks, you too, Lenny.
you're welcome.
Watch
All
out
right.
for the sharks.
So back, we are at 118 Leadmine Lane. This was, we have 2 discussions on here.
What number are we talking back at?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Yep,
Number 7.
yep, go back 1. Yep. So number 7, 650, 680 Route 15, notice of intent, proposed development of a nursery and tree farm to include a perennial stream crossing, DEP file number 300-1092. We did receive a written request from the applicant's representative asking for a continuance to August 17th. I did ask, they have to meet with the applicant to go over the peer reviews and what it would require to, get all of that additional required information. So they haven't done that yet, so they're asking for a continuation to August 17th.
What was the continuation? Why did you want a continuation?
Today?
Yeah.
When I spoke to the engineer, he said he still needed to meet with the applicant to go over all of that. They haven't done it yet. Yeah,
Is part of that the alternative?
right, the alternative analysis and everything that would be required for the riverfront impacts, documenting the best location for the stream crossing, showing the need for the other stream crossings, et cetera. So, quite a bit of work from my understanding, so they need to meet with him and go over what that would entail to discuss moving forward, I guess.
All right, let's go. What's the next one?
All right.
Well, we need to vote on the
Oh,
continuance.
yes, yeah.
Okay. All in favor of continuation? Eric, you in favor of the continuation?
Good looking at your cat.
Eric?
Yeah,
Yeah, are you in favor of the continuation?
in favor.
Yes, August 17th, yep.
We have to remember that in all cases, continuation is granted especially for new information, but not for most other reasons. If there's no new information, then we're supposed to take a vote on it. But in this case, there's tons of new information.
That's a good point.
All right.
Yeah.
We're on the lead mine, and unless Glenn's here in person, we can't entertain the,
He's right there.
Oh,
that's not in person.
Yeah.
all right,
Grabowski, how you doing?
Hello, hi, yourself?
Good. You hear me all right?
Can hear you that well.
Can you hear me all right?
and you gotta move your mic to your mouth.
How about now?
Thank you.
All right, so just, we have two things here to discuss. First, we're going to talk about the 118 Lead Mine Lane enforcement order associated with DEP file number 300-684. I'll pull up the revised plan and let Glenn go over that, but just as a quick summary here, they came back last time. I think they've satisfied most of the requests to bring this project back into compliance. The last question was the area of the driveway. And, they wanted to keep that. They came back with a revised plan to remove that asphalt impervious surface and put crushed gravel down. Otherwise, the plan is the same, and that's what you asked for. You asked for same plan, come back. You gave some detail about the width. They had to add, some openings around the septic covers and gave, a width allowance for, parking there. They've actually come back under it was 12 feet from where they have the septic covers. They do need a little bit more. They're asking for a little bit more down below. I think that overall they've satisfied what you were looking for here. I do recommend approval of it. If you want me to quickly go through, I have some recommendations. I can do that afterwards if you want.
They expanded the wetland across the street too, right? Am I missing something here?
So they are. So I'll scroll. I'll pull up. Let me pull up.
The only thing they were doing was changing the.
They didn't change that part of the plan.
They didn't?
No, they left it where they were going to restore that whole area. Part of it was wetland and part of it's an upland area, and some restoration was already done. So I'll pull that up, Glenn. I can let you kind of go over that a little bit more. But
How are you telling me they didn't change it or they're not going to change it? If they're gonna.
Now you're just trying to confuse me.
No.
All right, so I pulled the plan up here, and I tried to zoom in so you can see things, but obviously I'm gonna have to scroll if you want to talk about different areas. I can go over my recommendations afterwards. Do you want Mr. Kowalski to go over it? Do you have any questions since you've looked at it, or?
I looked at it.
If I could, and I will be brief, I know Ed like that. There was some question about what was restored across the street in the past, not that long ago, and then what was left with the bowl.
Can you increase your volume a little bit? Please.
I have a problem with that mic that I'm normally wearing, so is this fine?
Yes.
Yeah, it's better, yeah.
All right. Well, then Rebecca might want to chime in if I'm hoping I'm loud enough. We have restored the rest of the area across the street beyond what was restored recently prior to me getting involved. And so that new number is 443.2 square feet of wetland restoration and 180.7 square feet of buffer zone restoration. We move the boulders up to the road, and I'll oversee that restoration. We will go down to the original A horizon. We won't make a pond in case it's depressed. We bring it back up to the elevation of the water just beyond us so that we have that marsh bog atmosphere. And we'll, as soon as we're done with it, we will submit photographs. Eventually, we'll have, I'm sure, an inspection on that. The rest of the other project where the brook was scoured, that has stayed the same. And the retaining wall boulders, fieldstone, with that 18 feet, that's to be repaired, fixed. We already have rocks waiting to go. One thing we will say, we're not going to wait until the end of September. We already contacted the mini excavator operator who helped us on the restoration upgrading on Adams lot. We'll be getting him in there as soon as he can schedule himself. We're hoping within the next 1 to 2 weeks, and start working. Once that water goes down, we can work on those undercuts of the brook. We can repair that wall at any time as that's not in the brook, that fieldstone retaining wall of the road. We would immediately go into the saw cutting of this project, both around the septic and also on the east side of the house, on the west side of the, should I say, driveway.
We will work with the contractor to install the Cultec unit. And I believe the plan is, we're gonna take obviously that asphalt off the neighbor's lot. And that is a restoration of 498.7 square feet of crushed stone instead of the asphalt. I believe that's generally the project, and again, we want to, we get a go-ahead, work immediately on this, immediately. Thank you.
All right. Any questions, gentlemen? Mr. Barnacle? Stephen?
I just wanted to say thank you for giving us the plan that we want.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I agree. I looked at the plan, but I don't remember what it said in terms of the size of the stone you're going to use.
Thank you, sir.
Quarter, yeah.
The chairman, 3/4 inch crushed stone
Okay, thanks.
instead of that asphalt. I followed the lead of Mr. Kelleher's DPW, as you know, out of another town, and that's what he felt was appropriate for that location. That's what my engineer and I.
You want to hear from the audience?
Sure. Is there anyone in the audience or on the public line that would like to speak in regards to the 118 Lead Mine Lane enforcement order? Anyone in the audience or on the line that would like to speak in regards to the 118 Lead Mine Lane enforcement order? Nobody that would like to speak.
All right. Motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
This is just the discussion of the enforcement.
Yeah, this one's not the public hearing, so do you want me to give you the recommendations?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Just to point out too, Glenn did touch on it, they did submit a timeline to getting this accomplished. And they would be starting as soon as possible, with the anticipation of having completion by the end of September. And that way, at least we can get the plants established while we're still within the growing season. I think that's acceptable. So, one other thing, just to note too, is that there was the question last time about the hemlocks and the upper lot restoration. They did ask if they could substitute that for red maples. I thought that was suitable. So I don't have any concerns with that.
Yeah, I like that.
So I would recommend approval of this restoration plan with the following conditions. Work must follow the submitted plan and narrative. A straw wattle or other suitable sedimentation controls shall be installed between all work areas in the wetlands prior to the start of work and remain in place until the areas are stabilized. And approval has been granted to remove them. Equipment is not permitted in any wetland. Work must be overseen by their wetland scientists, and a report shall be submitted by the wetland scientists within a week of activities to include photographic documentation and certification that work was done in compliance with the planning conditions. If the work is phased, they can submit phased reporting on that, which follows that. Since it is actual wetland restoration we're looking at here, they should monitor the replication areas, or restoration areas, I guess, until they receive 75% cover. And that's, yes, Dave?
Did you put a date for planting?
Well, I would say that they follow the work plan.
Yeah, I
And what
think you
they-
should put a date for planting,
Okay.
because remember that this has been a delayed action now for 3.5 years.
Yep. When would you like planting to be in?
Well, the nervousness of me says that if you plant it after September 15th, the growing season is way too short for them to be able to be successful.
Established. Mid-September?
That's what I would think. Up to the board.
Fine.
Thank you.
But I'm just saying that in this particular case, if we're not very precise in our demand, then it's liable to go to waste, and we'll be back next year doing the same thing.
Right.
You're right.
I agree.
I agree.
So then also, you know, that the enforcement order isn't released until the conditions are met. Recommended that once the restoration plan is implemented, and we've received the reporting that it's been implemented, that you can look to release the cease and desist, and then reopen the public hearing for the new house, if you see fit.
All right.
Now you can make your motion.
Somebody make a motion?
The first motion ought to be to close the public hearing.
Oh, no.
It's not
This
public.
is the enforcement order. So
enforcement.
we just need a,
Enforcement.
we just need a motion-
do that.
We passed it.
a motion to approve the
restoration plan.
restoration plan.
I'll second it, Stephen.
Oh.
Did you want to say with the
Yeah,
conditions?
yeah, so I make a motion to approve the restoration plan with the conditions as outlined by the agent.
And I'll second it.
Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor. Steve, Glenn just gave you a retirement present.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate that you came back with a plan that fits the last year and a half, or 2 years, or 3 years of discussion. And I know that you're caught in the middle oftentimes, so I noticed that your client was not here today.
No, you're on here.
Now,
Thank you, Glenn.
118 lead mine, continued notice of intent.
Eric.
Yep. So, right, as we're waiting for implementation of the restoration plan to address the enforcement order. What's been discussed is continuing this.
Yep.
That way, they can come into compliance before they receive a permit for any new work. If they believe that by the end of September, they can meet those requirements, then, what we could look at for continuations, then we do have a September 21st meeting, and then after that is, let's see, I believe it would be October 5th.
Through the chairman, if you will, we will work to be in front of you sometime directly after August. As we are going to.
So would you like to go to the September 21st meeting?
By chance, do you have one just before that?
It would be August 17th.
The 21st, please.
Okay.
What did he say?
Yeah, what date is that?
It's September 21st.
Okay.
I might ask through the chairman one more time. I know that's it's a month away from the 17th.
I can't hear him.
My client is inclined to rapidly. Is that a hardened date? If we finish before the 17th, I know it'd have to be 7 days so we could get us on the agenda, but I just want to say that I know they're anxious, and I don't see a lot of work here. It will be done correctly, but I want to be able to call you, if possible, to see if it is 7 days prior to the August meeting. I know that's a far chance, but we're going to call. Because it's not a public hearing. I can't say that, because it is a public.
About 90% of that. Could you just give the bottom line of what?
Bottom line is I don't want to be pushed off my clients wouldn't like to be pushed off.
An early
That is the bottom line. So, I know you have long agendas, I've asked to be on the 17th, and then, if you didn't mind, if there was a request to continue, then I would be on
So if
I'm sorry, the August 17th,
so
then
they
I
have
would be on the
a month, a
September.
little less than a month in the sense that they could get work done.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's thinking if they can get the work done and then provide the reporting to get out and be on August 17th.
That's
They don't
correct.
want to necessarily wait another month in case they're ready. I don't think there's any
That's
hurt in
correct.
putting it on there, but right, if we don't have.
Put you down
the-
for August 17th.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Glenn, before you go,
Yes, sir. I'm not going to go too far because I have at the end of the agenda, at 1:15, the Cheslaw Prouty certificate of compliance restoration still, so thank you.
We can do that next for you, Glenn. We don't have
think of
anything.
Holland Road.
I'll be very brief. I know there's people waiting, but, so thank you for that.
Glenn, Holland Road and the mill site. What is the giant thing that's parked in the parking lot?
All I know is that the fire marshal made Richard Connolly move the trailers out, but I haven't seen any giant road. I am working with DOT on those deep sump, the hoods. Drop in that's on 20, but I don't know anything about anything else. I can call, and I'll get an answer to Rebecca tomorrow.
We
need a motion.
To continue to the August.
Continue to August 17th. For
Thank you.
118 lead mine. All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Yep. Thanks, Aaron.
I'll second Steve's motion. Yep.
Go.
Okay.
Now you're.
I'm still in favor.
So, without getting into a lot of discussion about 9 Holland Road, I saw the trees went in, but I think that you owe us like a monitoring report on, or status report per the enforcement order where you're at with those things. I mean, I think they're in, but I don't think we received any, updates on that. I think in our letter, we had, something about monitoring and reporting, so just check to make sure we got those coming in, all right?
All right.
The 23 trees are being watered once a week. Everything's living fine. They had great root balls. We'll report on those saplings. Thank you.
Okay.
Rebecca, through the chair, Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question about the condition of Lead Mine Lane itself, please? This is Gary Callahan, I'm sorry.
No, we're all set, Gary.
Well, that road needs to be better. I'm concerned about public safety. It did wash out with the deluge.
Gary, we're trying to move through this meeting. It's a separate subject.
I'll talk to you after this.
Yep.
Yep.
Wonderful.
I mean, I already closed the public hearing.
Yeah. What? We closed.
Glenn has one more thing on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yes, if you're ready.
Yeah, I mean, is there something that you're not here for any particular agenda item, you want to just talk about those? Yes. Okay. Okay, yeah, well, we'll just finish with Glenn's,
This is pretty quick, I believe.
Aren't we finished with Glenn?
he's got 150 Charlton Road on here, which is number 26.
Number 26, huh?
Chairman, if you are granting me.
So, all right, I'll just quickly start on this. This is a request for certificate of compliance that we had spoke about before. There were some outstanding conditions in regards to monitoring, water quality monitoring, which has been completed, but there was site restoration, removal of wells on site that needed to be done. They had submitted a plan showing different stockpiles that we removed. There was a couple on an off-site parcel that they proposed to remove as they thought it was part of this project. The permits expired, so there really was no open permit avenue for them to do the additional restoration work. That wasn't done under the file. We had talked about issuing an enforcement order, a friendly enforcement order in a sense, so they could get the restoration work done. That was voted upon. They came back and they've discovered that a couple of the stockpiles on the adjacent property was not part of this project. They don't want to remove them. He's asking for a change to that. He's provided a narrative for the restoration work and a restoration plan, which I've looked at. I don't see any concerns with that. If they're not part of what the original remediation work that was out there for the oil spill, then I don't think they're required to remove those parcels on, not parcels, piles on an adjacent parcel. But that's up to you, I guess, how you want to move forward with that. So I think you need to discuss that. I do have the plan in the narrative. If you didn't get a chance to look at it, I can pull that up if you'd like. They did state that as soon as work is granted approval, they would start within a week or so. Meaning if you're ready, I'd recommend approval of the revised plan to be implemented under an enforcement order as previously outlined with the following conditions. Must follow the submitted plan and narrative, must be overseen by a competent wetland scientist, submit a report within 2 weeks of completion of the work to include documentation of review under the spoil pile for hydric soils. That was one of the conditions that needs to get looked at, and to include photo documentation certification that work was done in compliance with the plan and conditions. Require follow-up monitoring and reporting to ensure the restoration plan has been successful and the area is stabilized. Depending on when the work is completed, this may include a review in spring, early summer to ensure the woody vegetation has survived. So it depends when they get it done, I guess. Should wetland replication be required, they will need to submit a plan and be reviewed by you for approval on how to do that work. And that can be included in that. And then the COC wouldn't be released, and the enforcement order wouldn't be released until the restoration work is completed.
Very well, very good. On favor?
It's not a hearing.
No, this,
Yeah, we're not,
Oh, yeah, this,
right.
We're giving him. Wait a minute, I thought we were giving him a certificate
No, we're not.
of
So-
compliance.
right, you're looking at approval of the revised restoration plan under the enforcement
All right.
order that you already voted to issue.
Right?
Right.
Okay.
So this is a vote, so we do need to vote on the,
You need to vote on it.
What was about?
yeah.
But you didn't discuss the parameters of the vote. You just went to all in favor.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Actually, I was confused, so. I've got Stephen here, so. All right, do I have a motion?
That's what Aaron's here for.
Well, we still need to,
You need to discuss, or,
You know, we got 3 piles out there, and you guys are gonna spend 14 years writing about it. Let's get this thing done.
get it done.
Oh, I agree, yeah.
So one of the piles was not on the original enforcement.
Oh, yeah, Christ. This probably went down the street that wasn't either.
Mysteriously appeared.
yeah, so the two on the adjacent parcel, they provided photographic documentation when that building was being built, that they were there then, and that was well before they had to do the remediation work for the oil spill on this property.
Right. I'm kind of the opinion right now, too, that those piles, they're not in wetlands, they're not, I mean,
They're in riverfront, but they're
right,
vegetated and,
Right, I've been there.
they're providing habitat right now.
Yeah.
For a bunch of weeds.
That's a good argument for maintaining them.
Right. They're not gonna remove them, right?
Somebody want to make a recommendation or a motion, or are we just going to, I'm confused. Are we
So-
going to approve this or not?
Well, we're not going to approve the COC.
No?
correct. So what you're approving is the revised restoration plan, their request to revise that restoration plan, the one they submitted, under the enforcement order that you issued, I guess is how I would say it. Agreed to issue, yeah.
And where is that?
Enforcement order has
Where is that plan?
canceled.
I didn't issue it because this request came in, they came to the last meeting and asked for this
Right.
to provide the documentation, so I put it on hold, because I hadn't issued, you already voted on the issuance of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So if it's
So-
on hold, who signed it?
Well, whoever voted on it is gonna electronically sign it, because you did it at a meeting.
What I'm asking is, the enforcement order gets written by one person, then it has to be voted on by the board.
Well,
Was it voted on by the board?
yes, but that happens sometimes with an enforcement order, but the enforcement order was discussed in a meeting, and you voted on it then, so you don't have to, sometimes if it needs to be done
We did
outside of a
vote on it.
meeting.
We did vote on it before.
Right.
So we have to have a vote on it now to eliminate it.
Well,
No,
need to vote on the revised plan.
Right.
right.
But we don't have it. It's-
You have it.
We do.
Yeah.
You had, yeah, they submitted it, it was in the packet there,
That's a
And Becky, you
plan.
recommend approval of the revised plan, so.
with the
Right.
conditions.
Yeah, and then there are a series of
Condition.
conditions that all look good, and at the end of all that, then we could consider COC.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're looking to approve the revised plan.
And I'll second that motion, Mr. Halterman.
Okay,
Any discussion?
let's do it.
Eric?
Eric Gaspar, in favor.
In favor?
On favor.
You're a leader.
Yep.
Ooh, there's chairmanship material there.
Long distance leader.
From Dallas. They laughed at me when I said I was coming to a conservation commission. They're like, what's that?
Yeah.
Where are you?
Dallas, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're on to 508 International now, Beck?
Well, we do have someone here in the audience, not for
Thank
necessarily.
you for your time.
Okay, what are they
All
here?
right, thanks, Glenn.
Thank you, we
Thanks,
are going to move forward directly once we receive your paperwork. Thank you
You're gonna
again.
have to either.
I can't hear you.
You're gonna have to get a better mic or come to our meeting.
Fix my headphones, yes, we're going to move forward directly with the project as soon as we receive the
Yeah.
paperwork.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Very good, I think.
I didn't hear his answer.
Yeah.
And the reason I asked about some kind of a structure being parked in there is because that is property that is under an enforcement order.
Yeah, no, I don't question.
And so we have a structure there, and I was asking what it was.
Yeah,
And you said, let's move on.
he's
Well, he's in charge of the project.
Move the structure.
I'll have the answer tomorrow.
yeah. Okay.
Let's take enforcement against him for having a structure.
Can we go to 508, or are we?
No, no.
What are we going to go to?
want to approach the board about something, or?
Oh, I can, but I don't want to interrupt your agenda.
We don't have anyone else on the line, it appears, for any of our other agenda items, so,
Yeah, so
I mean, there's
come on
plenty
up.
more, so you don't have to wait if you want to.
Sure, come
on up.
Oh, come on up. We need a break from enforcement.
Come sit up next to Rebecca.
Yeah, just so you have the mic.
Actually, we met by email. I'm Flor San Germano.
Oh, nice to finally meet you.
finally meet you too. I'm Flor San Germano from 86 Cedar Street. And I saw in the agenda that you were going to talk about take this off, so.
Thank you.
To talk about the development at 60 and 70 Cedar Street, kind of like at the end of everything.
Yeah, what I added on here was there was correspondence received. It was actually sent to Board of Selectmen, and the person who sent it to you, and I said I would share it with you.
Right.
So I did put that on as correspondence. It was an email in regards to
Yeah,
the
we read it.
60s,
I read
70.
it.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm not familiar with the correspondence.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm not, I know, like, from living in the neighborhood, that there is a big concern about development in this area. And I wanted to come here as a biologist and geographer and also a neighbor to raise my concern on this development. I know that the town wants to move forward with this, and so I wanted to point out the importance of the wetlands in this area. And I know that from the conversations that I've been hearing, that you're also interested in protecting these wetlands, especially the recreation plan, but it's not a plan yet, but like the maps that are there, they are encroaching into the 100-foot buffer. So that is a big concern. And well, like, just wanted to mention this. To know how, I wanted to know a little bit more on how the Conservation Commission was looking at this. I know that for 70 Cedar is the senior center as well, that it's not within the 200-foot buffer zone, but it's on the upland, in the woodland uplands that are so important for the maintenance of the biodiversity, barred owls and all these things that live there. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, and there's been no formal plans presented for them to review yet. There has been a concept plan, which you've seen for the 60 Cedar, which has had some engineering, and as a staff member, I've provided some comment on that. But as far as the senior center, that's still conceptual. So nothing's been presented to them, but I don't know if you want to provide any comment.
Well, we should add that there was one thing that they presented to the Trails Committee that the Trails Committee did not know about. In that whole area, besides the Discovery Trail that the Trails Committee initiated, there are several other trails that she has done the GPS on, that the Trails Committee is looking at right now to see whether we can incorporate those. But the trails we didn't even know about, that all the neighbors have been using for years.
Yeah, there's a network of trails that connect Caron Road with the recreation area, and from the recreation area you can connect to the Borges trail system, the wetland system that the kids use from school, and from there connect to the main street through the side road.
Well, I guess if a project comes before us, we'll evaluate it on the Wetlands Protection Act and our bylaws, and we do allow something in the 100-foot. It's a buffer zone, and if we can believe that, based on the plans, that work in a buffer zone is not going to have a negative impact on the resource area, unless there's a stream there that's, that has a riverfront. The wetlands have a buffer zone at 200 feet, but that's what we would be evaluating.
So is the evaluation at the 100 feet or the 200 feet? Because the 100 feet, I know that is from the
state act.
the state, but then the 200 feet is
Is the local bylaw
Right,
that we
but
have. Yep.
remember, it's a buffer zone, and a buffer zone says we have to take real hard look at anything that's in the buffer zone. And our hard look is there going to be an impact,
Yep.
temporary or permanent, on the resource area? And we look at a lot of things, impervious surface,
Yeah.
so that's what we'd be evaluating. I mean, the whole, the trails and all that, then that's going to be a totally different argument. That's for town meeting.
Yep.
And the Trails Committee will definitely weigh in on that. They're already looking at them, and, you know, and this town looks very favorable on trails and recreation land and so on. But
That's great.
it'll be a town meeting issue in terms of whether you're going to build that stuff or not, and we'll evaluate the plans.
Yeah, I wanted to point out, I don't know if this is the place to raise this, and in the feasibility studies, they were using maps that are from the Massachusetts GIS.
Yeah.
And those are not good enough for planning. So they were not being, the mapping of the wetlands in the area were not remapped, let's say, like for planning.
Well,
Right, so for,
we have to permit the project.
Okay.
Right.
Exactly. We'll have the wetlands delineated by a professional.
Okay.
And
Right.
that will be evaluated as part of our process.
And we have a 25-foot no-touch and a 50-foot no-build, so we'd be looking very
Excellent.
carefully at that.
Excuse me. One piece of information that did come forward, we have an old conservation notes, and there have been rumors around town that there were conservation easements on the land, or a variety of different things, and they're not so. The town owns, from what this meeting here says, the town owns the land outright and can do whatever it wants to do with it. And it wasn't given to the town with any direct
Use.
No other easements on it.
What?
No other easements.
No.
use or restrictions. Yeah.
So, and that's, there's a lot of stuff going around, so I give you that information.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, too. As you go through with your political point, what you want, that's not, you don't have that in your favor.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know that, and but that's why conservation is kind of the only thing that we have left, and saying okay, well, at least be sure these 200 feet buffers, and well, we know that that's not enough for protecting the diversity of the vernal pools and so on, so, but that's what the regulation said, so we cannot do more than that, so.
I just want to point out, until you said your name, I didn't know who you were. Florencia is a professor at Clark that lives in town, and she has put in for a special use request at Leadmine to do avian and invertebrate audio surveys to see, what the biodiversity is down there. And this year, it's actually got put on hold, right?
Yes,
And-
well, I'm working on 24 sites in Massachusetts.
Oh, wow, so yeah. you're-
So
yeah.
I wasn't able to get
Yeah.
to Leadmine. I did that 2 years ago, and I'm still.
Oh, yeah, looking at the data.
So I work
yeah.
with what is called ecoacoustics. That is recording all the sounds of the environment and creating indices that gives you an indication of the quality based on sounds, and you can separate the biodiversity sounds, the birds and frogs and crickets and all the animals that make sounds from the human sounds. So you can see what is the composition between human sounds and diversity sounds.
Excellent.
And then-
Have you published something that sounds so familiar?
Oh, well, there is a lot of literature. I haven't published yet on that one. My research is mostly on the technology for conservation. So I'm a conservation GIS, Geographic Information Science applications for conservation. So I work mostly with satellite images and remote sensing to monitor the Earth on land change and see the impacts on biodiversity. So from looking from space, now I'm starting to look with from the ground up, how we can simplify the monitoring of biodiversity without having to be hours in the field trying to identify every single bird.
Right. Yeah. Well, do you use some of the Cornell Lab?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I use the Cornell Lab software. I'm not working on the identification of birds. But they have the whole library, so sometimes I hear weird sounds. I'm like, what is this?
Great stuff.
Yeah. So if anyone of you is a birder, I have 6,000 files of recordings for 24 sites, so multiply that for all Massachusetts. And I'm recording from April to October, 4 times an hour for the whole day. So.
Wow. Do you have a card or something that we can have?
I didn't bring anything with me, but I can. You have it written down there. I can actually send it by email.
Yeah, you have my email. Yes. Yep, I can get that to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend that's writing a book, Birds of the Appalachians, and he would love to talk with you about that. And, of course, he's tied into the Cornell work. And anyway.
Definitely, yes. Well, we were off.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Well, thanks so much for letting me talk.
Oh, no problem.
Out of schedule and everything.
All right, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Aren't we done?
All right, let's go back. But we've got a lot crossed off after 9, so that's. Yes.
Give her a raise.
Yeah, we're on 9, huh?
9.
That's
All right.
very depressing.
Not a very big number.
All right. All right, number 9, we have, this is 334 and 338 New Boston Road. This is a forest cutting plan.
Oh, yeah.
I went out, Joe Kowalski prepared the plan. It's already gone to DCR and was approved by DCR months ago. I think they forgot to send it to us. But it's also gone to Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program because it is within priority habitat. They've added some conditions to that. That was included with the plan that I uploaded for you. I went out and did a site visit with Joe, walked the site. Within the plan, he's got a pretty good narrative in there about what he's planning on doing. It's not a marked cut, but it's a selective cut. About 1/3 of the trees are anticipated to be harvested. Yeah, and then stand 3 is the only area where there's harvesting in wetlands. He said it's unlikely that they will be harvesting in that area.
That's the part that I was concerned about, is 1/3 being harvested in a wetland. And yet there's supposed to be a maximum specific number, and I don't remember what it is, taken out of a wetland.
Yeah, and I think he does talk about that in there, that he keeps a certain basal cover. I think that's what's required. I think overall on the site, it's 1/3. But he does have the information in there about the actual harvesting in the wetland. He says it's very unlikely they'll actually go in there. They do have a filter strip on all the wetlands. If they do have to, there is a stream. They will be bridging that. That's included on there too. So there are some existing cart roads on here. They have 2 access points off of New Boston Road. They can use an existing driveway, a paved and a gravel one. I mean, I don't see any concerns with this based off looking at the wetland review of it. They haven't filed with the Board of Selectmen yet. I did inform them of that requirement. They said they were going to be reaching out to the office on that. They do have a timing restriction with the Natural Heritage Program to work outside of one of the vertebrate active seasons. So it would have to be a winter harvest, from my understanding. So, I mean, when it goes to the Board of Selectmen, I'd recommend approval of the forest cutting plan. Some of the conditions we've asked them to notify in there is that we're notified of any plan changes. They're supposed to do that with DCR regardless, but it's important, I believe, to re-say that to them, that we received notification of the start of the forestry activities. That's just so we're aware that that's going on. We do get a lot of calls in the office about that. And then to be provided with the licensed timber harvester's contact information, as it wasn't determined at the time. And also request permission to access the site to perform site inspections during work with prior notice would be provided to the harvester and the property owner. And then, another recommendation would be that the bond isn't released until the final inspection is completed. So that way, ensure that they followed the plan.
All right.
Sounds good.
While we're on a forest cutting plan, the DCR has a new program out, and we should start asking about it to the foresters when they come in with a forest cutting plan. There is a new design for forest cutting plans on Chapter 61 properties, where it is specifically designed to encourage bird habitat.
Yes. Yep.
It's brand new, but a lot of the foresters have been signing on to it, and they're getting special training from DCR. Wow. But it's incumbent upon the locals to ask the forester, because the forester's not going to ask you. It means more work for them.
Yeah.
But DCR has got reams of information now, even including some small pamphlets regarding what the forester can do. Now, I don't know what kind of training they give the forester, because DCR doesn't talk about that.
Okay.
But I think we should be alert and ask the question, is this going to be for habitat improvement for the avian society?
Okay.
Yeah, we ought to get those pamphlets. I'd like to.
If you contact DCR online, they'll send you the pamphlet.
Yeah.
They started out by sending a pamphlet to all people who have 61A properties.
Right.
And so this month, probably 1,400 or 1,500 people in Massachusetts received them. Stephen, you guys should have gotten one.
We don't have it in 61A.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I received one.
Did you get it?
Yep.
Yep.
Sounds.
Not yet.
All right. We're on to,
Nope.
288.
We need to.
Yeah, so here it would just be,
Recommending approval to the Board of Health.
exactly.
Yep, I make a motion that we recommend approval of the forest cutting plan to the Board of Selectmen with the conditions that Becky.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Eric Gaspar, in favor.
Thanks,
All
Eric.
right. Next,
Eric, you should bring a cat with you when you go to,
Yeah, I know. He hasn't made an appearance.
Yeah, we missed the cat.
288A, Clark Road Extension, tree removal.
Yep, this is a request to remove one tree approximately 50 feet from the lake. I did take a picture and upload that in the OneDrive so you could see that. It does have a lean to it, and it does have some substantial rot, about 15 feet or so up on the tree. Property is about 0.15 acres, and there is a good amount of trees on the site, especially where this tree is. There's actually hemlock hedgerow, some other deciduous trees, and then like an arborvitae hedgerow. There are trees by the shore and trees on the other side. It's a pretty small lot. It's not a house, it's just a shed lawn in a dock. So it really would seem hard to kind of place another tree there. And based off what's out there, it didn't really seem like that would be necessary, in my opinion.
Motion?
Make a motion that we approve the tree removal at 288A Clark Road.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar, in favor.
All right.
72 Paradise Lane, tree removal.
Yep, another tree removal. This is the removal of a declining ash tree. It actually has the emerald ash borer in it.
Oh, sure.
And it, yeah, so this is it's on Paradise Lane, developed house lot, mostly lawn. There's a few trees down by the shore. This is one of them. It's probably about 4 or 5 along the edges by the shore. It does have a nice, nice substantial canopy over the water, but there are other trees immediately adjacent to it. Obviously, I'd recommend removal of it. It has rot. and has the emerald ash borer. I would add in there just recommending that, they follow DCR's, recommendations. Either you chip it, I believe, or leave it on site. I know I had some language before, I'd have to find it, just so they're aware, so you're not spreading, the insect. I think that's important. I mean, you could, you know, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing for another tree by, the lake to provide some canopy. There's a lot of tree roots over there that might be hard. If you wanted something, you could, I would say maybe one tree could go in down there, or 2 shrubs, but that's up to you what you want, so.
I would be looking for 2 to 1, unless it really is heavily treed.
I mean, there are trees down by the shoreline. You know, it will result in the loss of some canopy over the lake, so it would be beneficial to have more there. I mean, they're asking to remove it because it's got a invasive insect, so it's not really like they just want to get rid of it. But it would, you know, be nice if they planted another tree. I don't know if, you know, what you could get in there. And it is leaning, and the tree roots are starting to come up, and if it did fall, it would take out that existing shoreline wall and result.
That has nothing to do with whether we agree with it or not.
Oh, no, I know.
If it has emerald ash borer, it's got to come down
Yeah.
and it's got to be destroyed.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, definitely gonna let it, you gotta take it out. The question is, what are we gonna do about replacement? Some nice bird habitat?
Recommend a replacement, just, we don't have to tell them what it is.
Recommend one.
I would recommend that we say they can either do 2 substantial shrubs or 1 tree, and leave it up to them.
Good.
Well, I go for 2 trees.
Well, I think it's just because, yeah, right. If you want to make the motion, Dave.
Go ahead,
I think it's just because of the limited space that they have, and it's already a lot of tree roots there,
okay.
so that's the only reason why.
But if we say shrubs, can we say berry?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I included
got
a
a
list here, which are larger shrubs, and a lot of them are berry bearing for you, Dave, so I can include a list of recommendations for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make a motion.
I make a motion that we approve of the cutting of the emerald ash disease tree and replace it with either a tree of substantial size or 2 berry-bearing bushes located close to the water.
I'll second that motion.
Native plantings? Native?
Sure, yes.
Yeah.
You don't want some Japanese,
Right.
that's Joe, sorry.
All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, 14. This was an emergency authorization that was issued. I spoke to Ed about this for Stallion Hill Road right-of-way for Sturbridge DPW and the Water Department. There are water gates that were underwater down there. This is a kind of backflow area of the Quinnebog River. Beaver Dam installed. It also does have, you know, stormwater that comes off the OSV parking lot in that area as well. They did go in and remove the beavers already through approval with the Board of Health. And they needed to also lower the dam to be able to access those shut-off valves.
You want to put in a beaver deceiver?
Unfortunately, they can't there. So this was looked at before, and we had Beaver Solutions look at it. The water depth behind the dam wasn't enough that you could put one in and it would be successful. So it really wasn't, unfortunately, an option. But, you know, we're seeing that. I mean, my recommendation to them, too, was also, you know, you should maybe look at relocating where the shut-off is, because it's a problem area, and it's going to keep being a problem, so.
Right.
But we did issue that. This is just ratifying the issued one. The work's been done.
So ratifying it?
I move we ratify it.
Second?
All in favor of ratifying the motion?
We didn't have a second.
It's seconded.
Okay.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
I was waiting for the dulcet
I was
tones of
waiting for
Eric
Eric,
to chime
yeah.
in and say, I'll second it.
Yeah.
Cedar Lake Drive.
All right, so I'm going to do the Cedar Lake Drive, but we're going to go to number 29.
What?
29, because 29 and 16 are related. 29 is the 2 Cedar Lake Drive enforcement order. So this was the property over by the rec area that's along the stream where they had plowed into the stream and were stockpiling. They did work last year. They did clean that area up. They planted some shrubs next to the stream, replanted grass in that area. We wanted to see it this spring. So I did go out there and look at that. It looks really well. She said that they're going to keep applying grass seed in little sparse areas, but overall it looked really good. We did not release the enforcement order yet, so I would, at this time, I think you could recommend releasing that enforcement order.
All in favor of releasing the enforcement order?
I'll second the motion.
Eric Caspar, in favor.
All right, so then back to number 16, 2 Cedar Lake Drive, request for certificate of compliance, DEP file number 300-971. So we did say too, you still have an open permit that you need to submit a request for COC for. They did submit that. Obviously, I looked at that when I was out there too. They, so the project included a house addition, removal of an above-ground pool, and a concrete patio adjacent to the lake. The project was completed per the plan, and as I already said, all the restoration work was done too. I would recommend issuance of the COC with the perpetual conditions that were noted in the order, which were special conditions 11 and 12.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve of the 168 request for certification of compliance. Whoop, I said that wrong. Cedar Lake Drive.
Yep.
Yeah.
2 Cedar Lake Drive.
2 Cedar Lake.
Sorry, 2 Cedar Lake Drive certification under DEP file number 300-0971.
All in favor?
Nope, second.
Second? I'll second.
Thank you.
All right.
Eric's not here.
I'm here. Eric Caspar, in favor. Oh, it's a second. You're right, yeah.
Because you can't look me in the eye.
All in favor?
As we
Eric
trade off.
Caspar, in favor.
All right, next 168 Shepherd Road, another request for certificate of compliance, file number 300-1080. This was a septic replacement that was recently done over the winter. I have gone out there. There was a discarded erosion control blanket over the embankment. I asked them to remove that. They did remove it. Site is stabilized. They have their as-built for their septic, and they have their letter of substantial compliance from their engineer, too.
Yep.
All right, so I would recommend, good night.
Good night, Jeff.
I'd recommend issuance of a COC with the following perpetual conditions noted in the order, special conditions 46 through 49.
I'll make a motion that we approve the COC as the agent outlined.
Second
Conditions?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Eric Caspar, in favor.
Yep.
You don't have a Texas accent yet.
Not yet, not yet. Can you believe it? They accused me of having a northeastern accent.
All right, number 19, 60 South Shore Drive, request for certificate of compliance, DEP file number 300-953. This is an older one. This was a shoreline retaining wall project. So they submitted a request for COC. They do have a letter of substantial compliance from the engineer. I went out and took a look at this. Site is well stabilized and appears in compliance with the permit and the approved plan. Recommend issuance of the certificate with the following perpetual conditions noted in the amended orders of conditions. Special conditions 12, 15, 25 through 27. Sturbridge special conditions 19, 24, and 27.
Motion? I move we approve the COC for 60 South Shore Drive DEP file 300-953 with the conditions outlined by the agent.
I second.
Okay. Any discussion? Sorry. All in favor?
Eric Gaspar, in favor.
All right, number 21, 8 North Drive, another request for COC, file number 300-1089. This was a septic replacement that we did not too long ago. It was done over the winter. They put erosion control blankets down. Everything has germinated. We have a letter of substantial compliance. They also did work to redirect the flow of the swale that was heading towards that catch basin. That was one of the other things. Don't have any concerns with the completed project. Recommend issuance of the COC with the perpetual conditions 47 through 50.
Well, I guess I have to make a motion for approving the letter permit for 15 Long Ave.
Nope, one right above
no.
it. 8 North Drive.
8 North
8
Drive.
North. The one above it.
Oh, I'm sorry. For 8 North Drive, DEP file number 300-1089.
All right.
Sorry, I had already checked that one off.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Eric Gaspar, in favor.
Now 22.
Yes.
15 Long Avenue.
This is Sturbridge Wetland Bylaw Letter Permit. So what they're asking here, we reviewed this site not too long ago. He did a shoreline wall replacement, did a boulder wall on there. It's out on a peninsula. So it's a small property. It's about 0.31 acres on the GIS.
God.
Small.
0.21?
3.1. One of the ones we talked about earlier was 0.15. Yeah, that one didn't have a house on it, but, so, what he's asking for is, he called and he said, I see other people on the lake who have pumps put in and used for irrigation. I'd like to do that. So I said, well, what exactly, what are the details of how you want to do that? Are you putting a permanent structure on the land underwater, on the bank or whatnot? So he's got a pump that he would propose
Well-
upland.
What are we doing for Matt Sosek? Because we'll do the same thing on this.
Huh?
Go ahead.
Okay. I know.
This
So,
group is tough tonight.
so the pump would be upland, and it would just be a line that goes in when they need to irrigate. So what he's proposing, he doesn't know, but he said, well, I'd like to, be able to water the lawn and the garden, which I kind of looked at what is impervious on his site. So what we're talking about is a pretty small area. It's probably 0.1 to 0.2 acres in size when you take out the impervious stuff, just generally, I just kind of did it in the GIS real quick.
Right.
So we'd like to water from June to September for watering once or twice a week. So I said, well, what's the pump? What are you pulling out? Whatever, So the system can pump 50 gallons per minute. It would maybe be 15 minutes a day for what we discussed, which could be like 500 to 750 gallons that he'd be asking. So it's to irrigate garden and lawn. Like I said, there's no bank impact, there's no land underwater impact. And considering the size of Cedar Lake, it would be a de minimis impact. So, right, water withdrawal in a small wetland can drain a wetland, right?
Where is the water coming from, Becky?
Cedar Lake, the lake.
Cedar Lake.
That's what
Pumping water out.
Yep. So,
We should, there's no precedent for this. How many of the lake people do you think are pumping water out?
well, there's probably a lot.
Yeah, I would say 25%. What would you say?
She-
Guilty?
So, at any rate, my point is, just let them, I think we should just let them go ahead and do it, but I think you should make the selectmen aware of it, because they're the ones that are supposed to be
Harbor Masters?
Harbor Masters, and they are responsible for the aquifer, so.
However, one of the things that we could do is remind these people of the exception that we have about pesticides, insecticides, and heavy-duty
Yeah.
fertilizers.
Good point.
Yeah, and that is,
That's what's going to end up going back into the lake.
yeah, and it was a perpetual condition on his permit too, so it's,
For the amount of land you're talking about, 500 to 600 gallons of water twice a week, that's actually quite a lot of water.
That is
in my
a ton of
opinion.
water.
Yeah. If you think about 10, 55-gallon barrels of,
I think they're selling.
yeah, I think he,
Just did a calculation based upon, I talked to him, based upon his pump.
yeah.
yeah,
I don't think he really.
will
said,
use that
"Oh,
much.
I'm gonna take this much water, because that's.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The pump can make that much, so.
Right, I was asking him to estimate, I guess,
Yeah,
so I could
okay.
tell you something.
Okay.
But right, I think it's a good discussion for Slack too.
Right.
And really, they should be taking this question up too.
Yeah. I'm curious about how he's pumping, what kind of a thing does he have, and it has nothing to do with this, but
Yeah.
what kind of a thing does he have in there that, where he's not just like pumping mud and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, you gotta float, you gotta.
Gotta have some.
Yeah, yeah.
You gotta
Barrel.
float.
Right.
I hear that you might have like this floating thing that goes on the end, you put a screen on.
There you go.
Yeah.
So can we just approve this with two caveats?
Yep.
Let the selectman know, and we tell him that if he's doing anything with any kind of,
Chems.
yeah, chemicals, that he is not to use the water from the lake.
Right,
Okay,
exactly.
And you know, to Stephen's point, even if it is an awful lot of water, unless it gets spongy underfoot, it's going right back into the lake anyway.
Yeah.
Rain goes back into the lake.
All right, what else do we need to?
do you want to just vote on that?
Now,
Yes.
yeah, so,
motion?
yeah, I think Ed kind of did there.
I made the motion.
Okay,
I'll second Ed's motion.
okay.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
We didn't ask you yet. We gotta follow the rules.
The guy's got his Texas hat on now. Come on, guys.
Yeehaw!
All right, number 24 is a right of first refusal request. This is for 335 Lead Mine Road. Land is in 61B for recreation open space. Site is a forested 5-acre parcel, which abuts Lead Mine Conservation Mountain area. This is the last area of road frontage that we have up there. Property could be used to increase the road frontage. I mean, it's a 800-something acre parcel. Not really necessary. I mean, they have talked about doing some parking over there. There's probably enough area to do parking without needing another parcel. I mean, my recommendation would to decline the right of first refusal request.
I make a motion that we decline the right of first refusal.
I second that motion,
Any discussion?
not to cut you.
All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
And by the way, that motion also included a letter to the Board of Selectmen indicating our results.
Thank you. Getting down to the end here.
You did the minutes?
I don't
We did the minutes.
think, yeah. I think we're on number 27. And I see Glenn's still on here. I don't know if he's on here. He just forgot to
Yeah,
log
but
out.
he is.
Or if he's on here for these. But I was asked to add the 508 international enforcement orders back on here. So number 27 is for 27 Lad Road. This was discussed at one of the last meetings. 2 members of the board went out and did a site visit to take a look at the restoration work that was done out there. The bridge has been removed. It's my understanding that they observed a mat out there within jurisdiction. And one of the other things they were gonna look at is if, you know, the area needed to be stabilized anymore, any seating or whatnot. So the board needs to discuss removal of that mat if they feel that's necessary, and any other activities that may be required. Just as a reminder, the enforcement order was not to be released in the court case not closed until the area was restored to your satisfaction. So I don't know if Ed, Eric, you want to inform the members of your site visit?
Yeah, Eric and I went out. The bridge is gone. completely gone. And it's already growing up in the area, you know, of the wetland, obviously. And the only comment that I would make is I just leave it, but there's a pile of mat, like foam, or could be a rug, I didn't touch it. It's a big pile, and it's about this high, and maybe 4 foot by 4 foot of mat they gotta get out of there. So, just sitting there.
Yeah, just look like outdoor carpeting.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
I don't remember that being there before.
No, I don't either.
I don't remember seeing that.
No, so that's gotta go, and that's all I have to say.
Russ
Matt?
Jennings on the public line.
Oh,
Good evening. Just for clarification, that carpet or whatever that was has been removed.
okay. Can you just introduce yourself for the record, please?
Russ Jennings, 508 International.
Good. All right.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't.
other than that, the site looked like it was going back well to me.
Okay. Russ, could you just send a picture of that area where the rug's been removed, and Ed or Erica can have you take a look at it, so you know?
Sure.
Thank you.
We will send that over tomorrow.
Thank you. All right.
So what's before us is to release the EO or not?
Correct.
So remove the enforcement order on 27 Lad Road. Do you have a motion? Do that?
So move.
Have a second?
Second it.
Any discussion? Sorry. All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
4 in favor, 1 abstain.
Stephen abstained.
Recused.
Would you like me to wait till I get the picture of that area for you?
What?
Do you want me to wait till I get the picture of that area for you to look at?
No.
Okay, that's fine, I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
It's gonna, yeah.
All right, next, 28 is 508 International. Again, this is an enforcement order for 205B, 205C Podunk Pike. So it was discussed about going out and walking the site. At the last time it was discussed, there was discussion of there was wetland restoration, but there was buffer zone and riverfront restoration. Mr. Jennings asked that you come out and look at the buffer zone areas and that riverfront area. You know, he thought that it was growing back well and wanted to see if he thought that was sufficient. In addition, board members just wanted to go out and walk that areas they maybe have not seen, so. Do you want to fill the board in on your walk? Or Eric?
Yeah, Eric and I walked the property. Eric, I don't think we had any issues. She showed us where they were moving out of. And
They won't hear you, Ed.
I'm sorry. They showed us where they were moving out of, and I had no problem with it. Eric, did you have any problem with it?
No, I mean, and there was some growth coming back into some of those areas that we found objectionable, so it seemed like it was progressing towards what we are looking to have happen.
The only thing I would say is that at points it's vague. You know, I mean, I don't know how we, excuse me, mark it better or make it more permanent so that we aren't dealing with the problem again in a year or 2 years.
So you mean the blocking off of the
Yeah.
trails?
Yeah.
Right, was there like a cable or anything that?
So it wasn't satisfactory. It was satisfactory from the point of view of where they had it marked. But there's a lot of stuff marked out there. And I wouldn't be comfortable that without something more permanent, that it would be permanent.
So they must have submitted a plan, and they're working towards restoration, but they haven't restored it yet. Is that what I'm-
Right, so they submitted a plan which included, there was a narrative and a site plan.
An idiot.
It included wetland restoration and species list, et cetera, from Mr. Kowalski on doing the wetland restoration. There was a note, I believe, in his narrative about buffer zone and riverfront restoration, and that was kind of the question.
Okay.
So there is a plan in that narrative for the wetland restoration.
Okay, and we want a wetland scientist to monitor it.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be done and
Right.
overseen and monitored. Right, I would say if you're satisfied with it, I would add the following conditions. Work must follow the submitted plan, where you might want to discuss, right, Ed, if you had some concern about demarcation out there, permanent things, you might want to discuss that afterwards, but wetland restoration to be completed prior to the end of the growing season in 2021. Equipment is not permitted in any wetland. Work must be overseen and completed by competent wetland scientists, and then that wetland scientist to submit a report with photographic documentation certifying that the work has been done, et cetera. And since it is direct wetland impact that's being restored, they do need to meet the requirements kind of set forth with replication, same thing for restoration, which is a 75% cover after 2 growing seasons, and to include monitoring and reporting with that. And then release of the conditions are met.
So it's underway, but have not done all of these things.
Yeah, you haven't approved anything to start,
Right.
You know, the wetland restoration, yeah.
All right. So we're looking to approve the plan? But we already did that.
Oh, we didn't.
No, this is for 205B, 205C Podunk Pike, yeah.
Okay.
I would like to ask Ed and Eric how they viewed all the vegetation that was coming in out there. And given that we have not been on the trails in over 2 years at this point in time and have no plans of being on the trails in the foreseeable future, I don't understand what the plan would be to restore something that's already restored.
Well, we're just talking about the wetland impact, where you've put the trails and drove through the actual wetlands. And that restoration was shown on your plan that you submitted.
I think that what he's saying, my concern is not that it won't grow back, because I believe that it will and has started to grow back. And it's vegetated on the edges so that, you know, it's just going to close in. I just think that the concern that I have is that they will use that land in the future, and they will go back into those areas if we don't agree to mark them correctly now. I'm not as much interested in, from my point of view, in a wetland scientist. It doesn't take a wetland scientist to go in and see whether or not something's growing back or not, and they are.
So by not driving on it or walking on it, it will regrow and it'll restore.
Right, just like a logging road.
Right.
So,
But to block it off with some kind of humongous boulders or something like that is what you're talking about.
I don't know if I was saying humongous.
Well, I
boulders.
just kind of made that up.
You know.
Something to block.
Because they have a really nice plan, and it's just that, you know, the plan cuts across, crisscrosses the road. Sometimes they're on, you know.
Right.
There's a lot of other roads in there.
So somehow to delineate it and block them.
Yeah, it's delineated, they need to block it.
Right. Is that
Particularly around the
somewhere in our plan already to do that?
I think it's to cable them off.
Absolutely not. We would not put cables up out in the woods, out in the middle of the woods, because it's just a liability that we're not going to go through, because people utilize our property.
We agree
without-
with you. We agree with you.
You're right, that's very dangerous.
We would
Yeah.
cable off.
Well, maybe the cable's the wrong wording. I mean, I have to look at the plan they submitted. There's something on there about cording it off. Maybe cording was the term that was used.
Right.
You guys know how remote those trails are. And when I tell you, we currently at this point in time have no future plans whatsoever to be doing absolutely anything out there on the Sturbridge property concerning 508. We just don't. There is no events planned. The pandemic has pretty much ended any plans this year, potentially next year, of larger events that we had utilizing the trails in the past. And since that time, we've rerouted things and we've changed things around so we don't have to go out there. And that's our plan right now.
Okay.
In the meantime, it's growing in. We can't, you walked out there. It's tough to even find some of those trails because they're so heavily complicated.
So,
But Ed, Russ, I'm just confused then, because when we were out there with Amber, she was showing us a rerouted trail that was definitively on Sturbridge property. So that would seem to be at opposition to what you just said, that there's no plans. There was a plan with the trail.
There are no plans. There are no plans at this point in time. If you have a
Then what
customer
was-
for us, gladly bring them forth, and I would love to discuss with you guys and them possibilities of renting the facility. But we do
No,
not.
I'm with,
And that's
all right, so then, I'm just saying that, Ed, unless I'm imagining things, there was a plan that we were following with Amber out there, right? And I'm not remembering that wrong, so.
We're not doing that. That's exactly what I'm telling you. We don't have any plans at this point in time to do that.
Okay,
I'm
well,
the guy-
you have to forgive us, you'll have to forgive us, Russ, because that is new information that was just given to us within the last 2 minutes.
Exactly why I'm clarifying for the record. There is no plan at this point in time.
So that puts us in a bit of a tough spot then, in my opinion, because, if there's a plan to get in there, then we can be assured that nothing else will happen. But if there's no plan, then it's kind of just us being left to your word that it's not going to be touched. So that's kind of the tough situation that I'm sitting in, is trying to evaluate. I actually liked it better when there was a plan going in there, because then there was something that we could ensure that those trails were not going to be used, and we could figure out a way to route around them. Now it's just kind of, we'll let it grow in.
If I'm not planning to use any of the trails at this point in time, and you're uncomfortable with that, I apologize. I don't know what to say to
No. Again, it's not that I'm uncomfortable with that. I actually prefer that, but there's nothing saying that it won't just get used, right? Whereas if there was a plan and we knew we could stay out of the wetlands, So anyway, I'll yield back to the chair.
well, anybody have any recommendations? Because Russ, if you want to send us a copy of that plan that you have with both the trails on it, and sign it, date it, say that you have no intention of any trails on any of this property, and, I guess we'd take that as, you've got copies of the plan, so all you'd have to do is sign it, date it, and send it to Becky.
Well, I sort of like your idea of having some sort of delineation, marking.
But he's not going to use it, so he's not going to use the area.
I have no problem giving you a statement at this time saying that I have no plans of using those trails at all at this point in time.
All right, Well, send that
If
to.
that's what lifts the enforcement order and ends all of this and puts an end to it tonight, that's as simple as it gets. And, we can sign that up tomorrow.
And then, great. Becky, what?
So just, I mean, there was a letter from Mr. Kravosky dated May 11th of this year, with his wetland restoration proposal. So there is about 3,000 square feet of impacted wetland on the site that they did propose to restore. It's a significant impact. I mean, I think that they did propose to do this. If you're all set with the upland and riverfront areas, I would recommend having the wetlands restored, as that sets a precedent.
I agree.
So the more work I put into this, then I'm gonna have to develop out a plan, and I'm going to have to start using those trails. I'm gonna have to recoup revenue. If we want to keep going round and round on this, you guys know it's totally vegetated. The reason why Glenn put together a plan, it was against my wishes. I asked him not to do that. I thought it was ridiculous. And that's why he's not here this evening speaking on our behalf, because we just don't agree on it. When we were using logging trails for the most part that had vegetation on them before, they were only used maybe 6 or 8 times. They weren't beat up. There was never machinery down in there, so it was not displaced by us with equipment. It's really cut and dry, and it's very simple. If we'd like to continue to go round and round on this, then, ultimately that's what courts are for. But,
I mean, I don't think anyone's going
if you want to propose a simple solution
round and round.
and resolve the situation, I'm willing to do that. It just puts an end to the whole thing, but like I say,
I think that the
whatever.
question last time was,
Whatever the board would like to do.
Okay.
looking at, they submitted a proposal, a narrative and a plan. There was a
Yeah.
question about upland areas, buffer zone restoration and riverfront restoration. You went out to look at that. It sounds like you're okay with that, but there's also direct wetland impacts.
There's the 300 feet of restoration that's still needed.
It's about 3,000 square feet of
3,000.
Where
wetland
was it?
that. What's that?
Where was it?
There's 3 different areas that were shown on that plan.
The ones that they're moving out of? Because
Yeah, there's one wetland,
most
which
of the
was
places that they're
1,000.
moving out of are in the woods.
Well, let her
Go ahead.
describe it. You
Well,
asked the
there's,
question.
right, 3 wetlands that had trails and vehicles driving through it that they developed a plan for. So there's an H-series planting list, which is at 1,098 square feet, that wetland impact. There's an E-series planting, that's 835 square feet. And there's an I-series, that's 1,057 square feet. And that's direct wetland impact.
So, sounds like the upland and buffer zone stuff you're good with. Sounds like they're on the hook to do the restoration of that wetlands, regardless of whether your guy liked it or he liked it or not.
Well, that's up to the board to decide. I
Uh,
mean, it was documented impact, so.
Yeah, I think it should be restored. I mean, everybody else has to restore their actual wetland resource area that they impact. They've got to restore it. Right?
Right.
That's what we do. So I agree with him.
All I did was do the upland. We didn't go in and look at any of the wetlands to say whether they were damaged or anything like that.
No, but we have a restoration plan that was
Yeah.
developed in order to fix things that weren't right.
Right, I know.
So.
You may not have seen them, but I don't think that's germane.
Well, it is germane, it's just I didn't see them.
It doesn't matter if you saw them.
No,
The consultant that was responsible for being able to develop the plan saw them and figured out a way to fix them. And that's what we're supposed to be doing, is fix them.
Right.
Well,
I think that they should, restoration within the wetland. And it's,
We indicated that we needed to have restoration of the wetlands done. So I don't think we can lift any kind of a problem item from our list unless the restoration has been done, unless the wetland has been restored to what it's supposed to be.
well, I'm not arguing with that statement.
Oh, that's what it's.
I have to agree with David on that, because, it's not like, we are now demanding that they go and put a restoration plan together. Their agent, whether or not they were directed by the applicant or not is really immaterial. It's his agent, brought us a restoration plan. So clearly there was something that needed to be handled. So, that came directly from their agent. So I tend to agree with what David said.
Yeah. How do you guys want to proceed?
We have an enforcement order on it right now, Becky?
Yeah.
Right.
There is, and they submitted these plans for your approval, so that's kind of where it stands. Do you want to approve this wetland restoration plan without the buffer zone and riverfront area restoration with conditions?
No.
So, as you just said, you did want to,
It has to be restored.
it has to be what?
Right.
Restored.
Well, that's what she's saying.
Oh,
This is,
Say it again for him, Becky.
approve the submitted restoration plan
yes.
without the buffer zone and riverfront area restoration. So they would be restoring the wetland impacts, the direct wetland impacts.
And Ed's saying that
And then the rest of it,
Eric
I
are
think, is going to
saying,
restore by itself because of a lack of use.
right.
Right, and it's starting to grow in, Ed said.
So another question is, and Ed brought this up, and I agree, the whole issue of, okay, somebody's telling us they're not going to use it, but, we don't know what's going on in the future, so there should be some sort of a way to
Block it off.
do something where we're saying, this is marked somehow, bollards or whatever, and nobody's going to go in there, and
But
then it'll restore.
But Steve, we're working on an enforcement order.
Right.
And the enforcement order is to get a restoration plan taken care of. We're not working on the other issues. We're trying to get the enforcement order taken care of. And I don't think we can add to an enforcement order after the fact. And that's what I think is being suggested.
Well, that's a good point. Okay, well, let's get the wetland resource area restored,
Yes.
and then use some way to just check up on that.
But that was the purpose of the enforcement order, was to get the wetlands taken care of, because we had a violation that was significant.
Okay, good point, good point. We don't want to add stuff that's illegal, okay.
So the way this thing sits at the present time, we should make a motion to agree to the enforcement order, the plan that we already have for taking care of the enforcement order on 27 Lad Road,
205B, 205C, Podunk Pike.
okay? Keep putting the words of music together, lady.
What a team.
And we need to approve it tonight. So we can send it to him and say, this has been approved, and this is what you would like to be able to do. Your guy has set it up so that it can be fixed. Correct?
Right, I agree. Motion? That sounded like a motion, a little wordy, but a good motion.
Oh, boy, that was a rattle-down motion.
That was, she can fix that.
I don't like to stick her with jobs like that.
I'll second that mess. I'll second whatever she's going to
Do you
write.
have any conditions with that approval that you want included, or?
Well, somebody said we are hard pressed to
That's up
make
to you.
changes.
And the only other thing that would have to be put on that.
You've got Glenn's letter, right?
You're right, we do have some good,
Yeah, it just says they'll restore.
conditions.
Yeah.
Restoration area,
Page 8
buffer
and
zone,
9.
Yeah.
that's it. It doesn't say.
But we have to put a time zone on it in order for it to be done in a timely manner. And
That's good.
how much work will it be So give them 6 weeks to complete it, and then have it certified as being complete.
So what about,
Was there a narrative with what Glenn gave us as to how long it would take to get it restored, Becky?
no, the May 11th letter just has that they will restore wetland buffer zone riverfront area where the trail went through it, and then it included a planting list and a cross-section.
Right,
Right.
It didn't, right, there wasn't anything that said,
nothing about time, but that's a good point. We've been burned a few times.
well,
5 at least.
I mean, if you, 2 months
Sure.
would be mid-September.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Again, I don't think we can go beyond mid-September.
Right, we
Right.
said that
Right.
earlier, so 2 months, 2 months,
Right.
and then,
Steve, did you make that motion?
Yes, no, Dave made it and I seconded it.
Did, any further discussion?
The conditions have to be in there.
All in favor?
the condition, you want the conditions in there?
Yeah,
Eric Gaspar,
yeah, I think we
Eric
will.
Gaspar in favor.
Yeah. Okay, so.
All right, we're
that
done.
Motion included the,
On to the next.
condition.
Becky, what else?
Committee updates?
Committee updates.
Apparently Lakes had a meeting without me, guys. Can you believe it?
You wait all this time and they have a meeting and you weren't there.
And they did claim that they didn't know that I existed. But I have emails that prove differently.
I know, I didn't want to say
that
to her, but I was like, I know there's.
I almost said something, Becky, as I went back, and there was at least 2 or 3 different occasions where she was introduced. But anyway,
Get through this here.
I
We got,
digress.
Committee updates, there hasn't been a CPA meeting. Trails?
Yeah, Trails had their meeting last week. There are a couple of events coming up, the 28th of September. There's going to be a celebration at the Old Sturbridge Village site. The time has not been indicated yet, but it will be sent out by email, and it's going to include a yoga walk. And on September 10th, we're having another astronomy night, and that will be at the Old Farm, I'm sorry, it will be on the New Boston Road site, the Plimpton property.
Oh, great.
That will also be announced at a later date for the time, but it's suspected that it probably will start about 8 o'clock with the culmination somewhere around 10. And Gary Staub has indicated that it will be an exciting night because of a combination of moon and various planets being visible.
Nice.
And he's setting up his telescope again.
Good.
And then the
September 10th.
September 10th, yes.
Astronomy night.
And that's being sponsored by Frost, as well as the yoga, and the Trails Committee is putting it on. And Frost has scheduled their annual meeting, which didn't take place last year, again in January, again at the Public House. The date is the third Tuesday in January, but I have to check on the time, because I haven't done that with the Public House yet. That's it for Trails.
Yep. And Lake Advisory, they don't know you exist.
They don't know.
Lake Advisory said, the guy's down in Texas, I don't think we can meet.
I was actually available.
Let's meet.
Yes. And correspondence, we talked about 60, 70 Cedar Street, right?
Yeah.
Agents report?
Just a couple of quick things. One, Hall Road, Sturbridge Meadows, on Hall Road, right where that perennial stream comes down, it's culverted under Sturbridge Meadows, under the road. They had a sinkhole in the road, which DPW hasn't done yet, but we gave emergency authorization, they're gonna couple the pipe there. Well, there's a sinkhole about 20 feet up on that site now, for that pipe. So it's a corrugated metal pipe, old, it's probably all deteriorating. I went out there today, they're gonna have a contractor come out and try to then also have someone kind of camera it to see how bad it is, but, pretty bad issue that we'll probably have to issue an emergency authorization for. So So just to make you aware of that.
I think we should take Hall Road out and restream it.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, out.
Poorly sighted road.
Route 84, the cleanup we had on there, which was the UPS truck that went off.
Right.
They did the wetland restoration and upland restoration in May. I just got the monitoring report today.
Good.
Looks good. They'll be doing some more monitoring for us on that. I did issue the letter to MIPA as requested, well, actually to the Director of the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. I forget her official title. So I did send her a letter with a copy of the letter that we sent to MIPA last year. They did get back to me and did have a couple questions about that project, and then also asked for our contact in the town of Charlton so they could discuss it with them too. So it looks like they will be doing a third-party advisory review of that project.
Wow.
So.
Nice.
Yep, so you're aware of that. The forest cutting plan on 208 Arnold Road that I had brought up to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did issue that letter to DCR, and I sent it to Jennifer Fish, who's the director of the program. Emailed it over, and the next morning I had an email from our local forester saying that, wasn't really replying to that, but said that they will be working with DEP on that. They're supposed to be submitting a detailed report, his detailed report on what's going on out there, what happened, and looking for guidance from DEP on like a restoration plan for that stream.
So DEP is sort of taking a lead on making sure it gets restored?
No,
I haven't-
DCR.
Well, DCR will work with DEP on that. I haven't received anything from him since.
Okay.
But I also, just so you're aware, I mean, the Board of Selectmen have a permit on it, so I did copy them on it. Town administrator also sent him a letter requesting some
But it's been 2 weeks and you haven't got an answer yet.
I haven't got I haven't got anything beyond that original
Yeah.
reply. Yeah, but they have, he said they have taken some steps out there, et cetera, kind of went over what they've done so far. But I can follow up with them, but I'm anticipating something soon, hopefully. Just so you guys are aware, we do have a couple new projects on the next agenda. I'm away next week, so there's, as of right now, there's 2 places to go to. Erin can take you out if you want. I did ask, we do have a raise and rebuild of a dilapidated cottage on Paradise Lane with Mrs. Albert, brand new house, garage, a lot of impervious driveway. I asked him to stake it out. I said he should be there for the site walk. I'll send out the schedule before I go, and then there's the
Is there a
other,
plan to rebuild?
yeah,
Yes, okay.
yeah. And then there's the 35 Bennett's. We went out and took some pictures and looked at it, but if you're going out, you should look at it. It's just a better visual, I guess. It's a kind of a landscaping project at an existing developed lakefront lot, so. There's another RDA on the agenda, but it's at a gas station doing some groundwater sampling type stuff. You drive by it every day, there's no need to stop, but I'll get all that out to you.
Should send a letter to the selectmen, to send a letter to Spencer and tell him to stop polluting South Pond.
Where'd that come from?
What?
Where'd that come from?
That came from their 7 Mile River.
Oh, no, that was kind of random.
What?
It was random.
No, it wasn't. Not random. I told Barnacle and I were talking, he said, you wouldn't believe what happened in Chicago. And I said, wait, the same damn thing's gonna happen in Brimfield, Spencer, and
Yep,
out it came.
yep. I mean, when it got too full in Chicago, they reversed the flow in the Detroit River, which runs right under the city of Chicago. And so it picks up all of the sewage from the city of Chicago and dumps it into the Lake Michigan.
Nice.
It's sweet. Should we not discuss the August 3rd problem?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, forgot about that.
I think we ought to take care of that now.
I can be virtual, but I'm going to be out of state. So did we get a definitive, we have to have quorum in the room?
No, we don't have to right now. So there's, the governor put in place, I forget what exactly it's called, but at this time, right, we don't have to have quorum of the board in the room, and that's extended until April of next year, I believe. So you can have a hybrid meeting like this with a board member.
So 3 of us would be sufficient so we could still do the August 3rd meeting?
Yep, if you have 3.
I'll be here August 3rd.
Right.
Anybody have any suggestions for somebody to come in and replace me? I have one. Guy we're familiar with, Chad Maramo, that has been before us relative to that Rom's parking lot issue.
Yeah.
Why don't you give his name to Steve, to Ed, and let him check it out?
Do we have any?
I asked him about it, and he said, well, I hate to waste my time on things that we aren't able to do. And I said, that's very seldom that we ever have something that we cannot accomplish. And so.
Who's this you said that to?
Chad Maramo.
You said it to Chad?
No, he said that to me. I said, why don't you get on the Concom? Because he's really interested in all this stuff.
Yeah.
I said, why don't you get on the Concom? And he said, well, I don't want to wait. I don't want to spend a lot of time on something that doesn't get accomplished. And I said, we accomplish a lot of stuff, and every once in a while there might be something that we can't do.
Tell him to talk to Jeff.
He's 16 hours. Make your motion.
Yeah. Is there anything else?
Oh,
All set?
well, Steve's last meeting, we should acknowledge that.
Yeah, we need to get together to have a, a drink.
A send off.
I would like to do that.
Here. I would like that.
I hope you all read the letter that I wrote where I talk about what a very fitting way to finish my 51 years of environmental protection is working with this committee. And I commented on the fact that we are do very serious work, but we maintain a collegial relationship. We maintain our sense of humor, and we do serious work, but we approach each other and the people that come before us in a really good manner. And I have greatly enjoyed 90% of being on this commission, and I won't mention anybody, but I wish you well with. But I hope you read that letter because I'm dead serious about.
But we should have a, I'll figure out a time and talk to you.
That'd be awesome.
Eric, he just said you and I were serious. What's that all about?
That's just because I'm not in the room. You couldn't say that to me with a straight face.
And in the 35 years of living in this town, I've been on every committee and commission with the exception of the Zoning Board of Appeals. And
There we go, we'll get you elected.
You got to make.
Marge would make me look so dumb. I see her a couple of times a week, and it is astounding what she has in her brain. She doesn't forget anything. She rattles off numbers and math and adds it all up in her head as she's going through it. And I told her, don't quit that committee.
Well, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
We're going to miss you.
We're going to miss you. Well, I'm really a little angry that you quit. Just want you to know.
Why are you angry?
I'm angry that you quit, that's all, just don't.
Okay. Because Ed called me, and I must say, he called me one day, 10 years ago. He said, Steve, we got an opening, you really should get on this commission. And he said, and there's hardly anything to do, because there's nothing happening. Am I right?
Gotcha.
Maybe at that week, there wasn't much going on. And it was during the Depression or whatever it was. And he said, I said, oh, hell yeah, I'll get on this. I like committees, and I hadn't done anything for a while for the town. And that was a great quote. Anyway, but this has been a really good commission to work with. It really has. And Becky and you guys have just, I do not know how you, other than youth, that you guys can keep all this stuff together and you go through all this review and updating and all that of at least 80 projects that we.
It isn't easy, we need some more staff
About
support.
80 projects, but we do them every time. They're the same one. Exactly. Maybe that's what Chad was talking about. We got to get off the time. Anyway, and Eric, it's been really fun. I've really enjoyed how quickly you climbed that learning curve and became very vocal, got ahead of me a few times. I mean, I must say, I was yelling at somebody about an alternative universe. And I thought, I'm seeing a cardiologist and I'm sitting here screaming at somebody? It's not good. But not for anything serious.
Okay.
Well, Steve, it's been a real pleasure, and I appreciate your counsel, and thank you for teaching me a number of those things that I've learned.
You had a lot of people teaching you that.
Yeah.
It's been good.
All right, Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn.
Have a second?
Oh, I'll second that sucker.
I'll second that.
I think Steve should.
Yeah, Mr. Hall.
Ceremonial.
All in favor?
All right, Eric Gaspar, in favor.
Take care.
Halterman said not.
Careful
in
traveling
favor.
home.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
This is
Ed will coordinate that.
Yeah, make sure Becky and I are available.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Make sure.
Steve.
I want to make sure everybody's available.